Whoa, hi, I didn't see you there. Hope you're all having a beautiful day today. Welcome on in, everybody. Happy Wednesday. It is currently 5 p.m. Eastern Time. We're still within the minute. It's not 5:01 yet or anything. We're still at 5 o'clock, so we're still on time. Nothing happened. That was a perfect presentation the first time around. Hello, hello. It's good to see all of you. Yeah, it's a little Wednesday. It's a little bit cold in New York once again, so we're going to be making a bunch of comfort food. I'm seeing all the classics in chat. Hello to Taza. Hello to Serena. Also, welcome on in, Samuel Cousins. It's lovely to have you. It's lovely to have you live. Hello to Zio. Hello to Dolingo. Hello to Good Weirdo. Hello, Mystic. Hello, Kaze. Hello, Jack. Oh my God, a lot of people showed up today. Well, how's your Wednesdays going? I hope it's going better than mine. Today, I was making some potatoes for myself. I was making myself a little lunch. And I may or may not have splashed quite a bit of oil on my poor dainty feminine paws. And so I'm going to be glove moding and occasionally going on and off camera to just basically drown it in some cold water. I might even set up like an ice bath with like a little ice cube or something to dip my poor hands in. But it'll be okay. I'll be okay. I was considering canceling, but I decided to pull through because I missed all of you so much. So welcome in. Everybody, we're going to be making something today. We're going to be making a little something called Pollo Guisado. If anybody wants to know at any point what we're making or needs a refresher, you can type in exclamation mark menu in the chat because that is always updated now with whatever I would be making at the time. So we're doing two things today. We're going to be doing a little Pollo Guisado. Also, welcome on in Turbulan. Welcome on in Death Owl as well. Hello, hello. Okay, so Pollo Guisado. Let's talk about all my ingredients for it. Well, actually, first I'm going to tell you about what it is. This is a very, very delicious, beautiful chicken stew. Every single household does it differently. Every single family does it differently. I'm doing mine like a little bit like Puerto Rican style, I suppose, where I'm going to be using some olives to finish it off with in the end. Not too like dissimilar to the way that I would do something like a roba vieja, but it's going to have some olives in at the end. It's going to have carrots. It's going to have some potatoes. It's going to have some chicken legs. We're going to fill it up full of seasonings, full of spices. It's going to have some tomatoes. So let's walk you through all that now. So if you all remember, when we butchered a couple of chickens, we were left with these beautiful chicken legs. My friends, I only work with whole chickens. And so, when we are left with all of these different chicken legs at the end of the week, well, we can always make a beautiful little chicken stew. So these bad boys, they're gonna get seared, they're gonna get super tender, they're gonna get super delicious. We're going to have some tender, melt in your mouth, really, really flavorful chicken by the end of this, okay? Not that appealing at the moment. I'm gonna show you exactly what we're going to do with these. We're going to get some color on it, we're gonna get some sear developed, and we'll make a lovely little stew out of it. Okay, next. Let's walk through my big pile of vegetables here. So I have a few things. I have a green bell pepper, and then I also have some red bell peppers, and I have some tomatoes. We're going to be doing something today called a sofrito. And so this is the aromatic base that is going to be the sort of the base of the stew today. Right, so you see this all the time in like Mexican cooking, in Puerto Rican cooking, in Dominican cooking. The idea of a sofrito is we're going to essentially blend up a bunch of these different vegetables, and then we're going to fry it off. And that's going to give us a lot of the base flavor for today. So the green bell pepper is going to get ground up. Some of the tomatoes will also get ground up as well. And some of the garlic. And then we'll also have some cilantro going inside of it. This isn't particularly traditional, my friends. To use like straight up cilantro inside of your sofrito. Typically speaking, you would use something called culantro because of the fact that it holds up to cooking a lot better. If you can get access to culantro, please use that in place of this. I had cilantro. Cilantro is going to do fine, but it's not going to be optimal. Okay, and that's just because culantro, the flavor holds up a little bit better to cooking in my experience. And cilantro I typically like finishing things with, but we'll both cook down the cilantro and add some to the end as well. Because my friends, this entire stream, everything that I do here, I'm trying to teach you all how to cook at home and how to use ingredients that you have in the home setting. Okay, I am not going to go out of my way to find things when I already have all these different things that I need to use up. So we'll adapt and we'll overcome. Okay. What else do we got? We got a carrot. We got some potatoes. Can't go wrong with either of these things. We're going to have some delicious tender carrots, some really nice and starchy potatoes. It's going to be super, super lovely. Yeah, and the potatoes, I love just having potatoes in stews in general because my favorite thing is like when the potato gets like slightly overcooked and it starts breaking down inside of the stew and it makes the whole thing like super, super like viscous, almost like a pseudo like mashed potato. I love having potatoes in stews just to be able to thicken things. It's one of my favorite little components in something like this. In fact, I like it more than I do the chicken, right? Just to be able to bite into like a soft, tender potato, immerse in all that broth, immerse in all that sauce, it'll be lovely. As for spices, I mean, we got the classics. We got some coriander seeds, we got some cumin seeds, we got some whole oregano as well. We'll be toasting it, we'll be grinding it. Also, welcome on in, Rush. Hope you're having a beautiful day today. Yeah, so just the really, really classic spices. And then, we'll also be using up some chickpeas today. So I'm gonna show you all my chickpeas really quickly. I was just keeping it in the fridge. I have a bunch of chickpeas here. These are my leftover chickpeas and I really need to use them up today. And so I was thinking, okay, to go alongside like this really meaty, really hearty soup, I want to use up my leftover chickpeas and make a lovely little salad. I have parsley in the fridge. I have cilantro in the fridge. Right? I have all these other things that I want to use up. And so that's what home cooking is all about. It's about looking at what you have, okay, and figuring out how do we use this before it goes bad. You're going to save money that way. You're going to have a constant supply of food in your home. My friends, this is what I mean about building up the home ecosystem, the home cooking ecosystem. It's about having a constant supply of pantry staples that you like using and knowing when you have something like this, how do we transform this into something else? So we'll have a beautiful salad to go at the end of this. And then, of course, going both into the Pollo Guisado as well as a salad, I have some olives. Traditionally, you would use like pimento stuff like green olives. These are just some black olives that I got at my local Eastern European store because they're really tasty. So not super traditional, but again, I'm using what I have available around me and I'm going to use basically the best of it. It's a chicken stew, my friends. This is a chicken stew. It cannot get much simpler than that, can it? So it's about simplicity. It's just about like using the best ingredients that you can possibly get. And if that means actually making some adjustments, then that'll be just fine. So Dolingo asks, isn't the liquid in the chickpeas like aquafaba or something? Yes, it is. That's what it's called, aquafaba. Basically the starchy chickpea cooking liquid. People can whip it up. You can whip it up. You can use it in places of like egg white and stuff. We're not using any of the chickpea liquid today. We're going to be tossing it out because we're just going to be making a salad with it. So that's going to be the recap. And everybody, before we begin, once again, for anybody that has not already done so, please, please, please check out the Patreon if you can. Every dollar that helps. You can type in exclamation mark Patreon in chat, as I'm sure somebody will do in just a moment. You can go into my About section. You can scroll down because grocery costs are expensive, gloves are expensive, paper towels are expensive. I could use a little bit of help in subsidizing the ingredient cost, the cost of, being able to run and put on the show. So if you can't support it, it'd be really lovely. Additionally, if you haven't already joined the community Discord, you should absolutely do so. You can type in exclamation mark Discord in the chat. And we can just like hang out in there sometimes. You can ask me questions in there. It's a very nice place. So everybody, that being said, is everybody ready? You know what I want to hear. You already know the answer that I want to hear. And it's flooding in. Perfect. I like the enthusiasm today. It's good to see all of you. So, my friends, the order of operations is going to be as follows. We're going to make the sofrito. We're basically going to put a bunch of things into the blender. Also, solo this. If you want to see what we're cooking, just type in exclamation mark menu if you would like. We're going to be making the sofrito first for the Pollo Guisado. So let's begin. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's go to my overhead. Ooh, my wireless keyboard. Oh, I can't show you guys the secret production behind the scenes or anything. So the actual sofrito itself, it's going to be based on this little green bell pepper here. I use a little piece of this for my potatoes earlier because I don't necessarily need all of this. We're not going to be making like a crazy amount of sofrito or anything. And so all we're going to do, my friends, we're going to make sure that we have the container in which we will be blending ready to go. Okay, and so again, the idea is we're going to basically create, not really like a salsa, but we're going to create this mixture of a bunch of different like little pureed ingredients, okay, that are ultimately going to constitute the base that is, it's just going to fry up, it's going to be super tasty, it's going to be super aromatic, it's going to essentially dissolve into the rest of the stew, okay? So I'm just making sure that I have my waste bowl prepped. Anytime that you're working with stuff, my friends, always have a bowl ready to go where you can put your scraps in, any bits of trash. Okay, if you're composting, if you're gonna save it for something else, that's fine too, but this is just trash for me. So this is about 3/4 of a green bell pepper. And once again, my friends, all we do is we stand it up, right? We stand it up, and then we wanna avoid any of these white parts. And that's mostly because it's not too flavorful. It's just kind of spongy in texture. It doesn't really taste like a green bell pepper. We just want to get the nice green vegetal sides off of it. So all we're going to do is we're just going to shave it down the sides, and we're keeping the white part on the inside. Okay. Beautiful. And then we don't need any of this core, and all of it just slides off really, really nice and easy. Okay, so for the green bell pepper, we don't really have to chop it up. We're just going to chunk it up just so that it fits into my... Oh, hello, camera, relax. We're just going to chunk it up so that we can fit it into the blender. Okay. Doesn't have to be perfect. Again, we're not going to go for like a complete like smoothie texture. We'll see if we can like pulse it or something. Because I don't want it to be like super, super pureed or anything. Okay, so that's 3/4 of a green bell pepper. Next, we got to get some kind of tomato in there, my friends. So I'm only going to do like 1 plum tomato. I have a lot of extra tomatoes, but we only need the 1 plum tomato. And again, like different cultures, they have like different ideas of like what actually constitutes a sofrito. This is more of like a Puerto Rican one, which has like the green bell pepper. This has the tomato. Traditionally, again, you would use like the culantro and something like this. We're gonna have tomato, we're gonna have garlic, we're gonna have some onion as well. It's gonna be really tasty. So 1 plum tomato also going in. I'm just cutting it in half like this so I can easily get in there and cut the core of that tomato out for the most part. And once again, I think, actually, I might want to do the sofrito in stages. No. We're just going to chunk it up and toss it in. Ah, I didn't get all the way to the end. Oh no. Do I talk like that on purpose? I don't know what you're asking me. No, this is just how I talk. I'm not sure what you're asking me. This is just how I sound. It's okay. It's a little bit of a rude question. I know you said it with all respect, but that is just how I generally talk. Okay, tomato, bell pepper inside. Next, my friends, let's move on. And again, we're just chunking stuff up. We're just getting stuff in there. It's going to be really nice and easy. I have some shallot as well. Not traditional to go into a like sofrito or anything, but guess what? It's an allium. My friends, one of the coolest parts about cooking is that once you get like a base understanding of how different things work, you can figure out how to substitute them for like similar versions of themselves, right? So instead of using like an allium, instead of using something like an onion, we can use a shallot, we can use a leek instead, okay? You can use basically any onion product you have, and it will still end up pretty fine and delicious. You can even use something like scallions at the end of the day. Okay? So, in this case, guess what? I had shallots at home, right? I think I have another shallot if I go into my little bin of shallots. I think I'm just going to use this instead of any other onion component for this today. And guess what? It's going to turn out still delicious. Okay? So the shallot, I'm just going to cut off the head, I'm going to cut off the root end of it, and then we're going to go ahead and peel it up. So we just cut it in half just like this, nice and easy, so that we can peel it up. I'm going to do this over the bowl so none of the shallot skin gets onto the cutting board. Okay, perfect. And let's just peel it off, my friends. What is going on? What is happening in chat? Oh my God. But yeah, cut off the head. Cut off the root end, my friends. Nice and easy. I'm completely lost. Okay. Okay. And again, all we have to do, my friends, we just have to chunk it up so that the blender can get to it really easily. I don't want to overfill this, is the only thing. Right? It's going to definitely like go down in volume slightly. Because like there's like a lot of gaps of air in there, and we're just going to crush up a bunch of these cells, but we don't want to overfill it so that it's going to struggle to be able to blend through all of this. So I think I'm going to stop for now, and we might just do this in 2 different batches. We might do the batch, I'm going to put the garlic in there, and then what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take like half of it out, and then blend cilantro with just half of it. That'll be the goal. Okay, because I don't want to overblend the cilantro. If you overblend the cilantro, you end up crushing a lot of its cells, and then it oxidizes and loses its flavor a lot more easily. Once again, if you have culantro available to you, that is what I would encourage you to use. Also, having a bench scraper is really nice because look at all these onion peels that we have just stuck to the cutting board. we can go ahead and use this handy dandy tool and get them off. Okay, let's get some garlic in there, right? Because you can't really have a sofrito without any garlic. So I have about half a head of garlic here. I'm going to just separate the cloves, my friends, over a nice open bowl so that all of these skins, instead of going onto my cutting board, they just go into my waste bowl instead. It's nice to have a very generously sized waste bowl that you don't have to replace too often. And so the purpose of this is, imagine if I had like all these scraps on my cutting board and I was going between here and my trash can all the time. Right? It's an inconvenience. It's a hassle. Just have a little bowl. At the end of the day, you're just going to have one more dish to clean, but it's going to save you a lot of time and it's going to make cooking a lot more pleasurable. Okay? So we're going to do like 4 cloves of garlic here. Yeah, I think that should be a good amount. And so everybody, you need to understand something. With something like garlic, the thing you need to know is the finer you chop it, the more it is processed. When it is in its raw state, the stronger and more intense it's going to be. If we were to just cut these in half and saute them, it wouldn't be nearly as intense as 4 cloves of garlic that have gotten completely blended up. That's because when you crush the cells, a little chemical reaction happens, and that is where the actual pungency of the garlic ends up getting produced. Okay? So all we have to do, my friends, we're going to take our bench scraper and we're going to flatten them. We flatten them just to, essentially just get it broken down. And then that way, we'll be able to get the skins off of them. By flattening them, you're separating the skins from the actual clove itself. Perfect. And now, guess what? We can just pick this off, nice and easy. It just pops right out, and there we go, beautiful little peeled garlic clove. The only thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to just take off like the dried root end of it, if it looks too bad. And we're just gonna go through each one. And all of it is going to get blended up and put into the sofrito, my friends. Okay, one by one. We're doing good, we're making good time. But yeah, it's gonna be like this really, really delicious aromatic base. We might not necessarily use all of it. If I don't use all of it, I might use some for like, let's say maybe like Friday's dish or something. We'll see like how much we get volume-wise at the end of it. I do like the smell of raw garlic quite a bit as well. Okay, so this is going to be the majority of the base of the sofrito, my friends. The last thing I'm going to do is, we don't really have to add it at this stage. You can add it now if you want to. I'm gonna do it now. I'm gonna add some of this beautiful like dried oregano that I have. I'm gonna do like, I don't know, like half a tablespoon of like dried oregano or so. And so, Audio Murphy, you've asked me, when is it acceptable to use garlic powder? That's a really good question. Garlic powder, it does tend to taste quite different than, whole garlic. I don't typically cook with garlic powder anymore. Honestly, garlic powder is like, oh, I'm cooking something fast and I don't want to put a lot of effort into chopping something up. What I really, really like is the What's Eating Dan series on America's Test Kitchen, and where they went into like some uses where you would want to use garlic powder instead of like whole garlic cloves instead. But in reality, if you mix it up with water, it's just like this really, really intense product. I find that it doesn't really taste the same. Sometimes I just want to have whole garlic cloves. Sometimes I just want sliced garlic. I don't love using it. And I don't know how much of that is actually just like ideology or just like past preference coming into play here. I don't really have a good reason for not using it as much, other than I just like working with whole produce. I know it's like a little bit irrational, it's a little bit illogical, but I only pull my garlic powder out if I need to quickly use something and I don't have enough time to really fiddle around with it. Ethan Schlabowski has a good garlic video. Wow, that would be the first time Ethan Schlabowski has a good video. Sorry. I have strong opinions. Have I ever made pozole? Oh, I would love to do a pozole trash can cat mom. I would love to do a pozole sometime. It's one of my favorite dishes. I love it to death. I just can't really seem to get any hominy around me. Okay, so my friends, once again, inside of this little blender cup, I have tomato. I have 3/4 of a green bell pepper. I have some shallots. I have some garlic, and I have some oregano. We're going to blend this up a little bit. We're not going to blend it up super fine because we want it to still be somewhat like chunky. A food processor would be better than a blender for something like this. But let's go ahead and go to the stove because that's where I'm going to be setting up my blending station. So let's go ahead and move this pot out of the way. And the way that I've just been blending is I just set up like a cutting board here so that you guys can see it. And let's get my blender plugged in. Come on. Ah, beautiful. Okay, and so my friends, I want to really emphasize, we're going to be trying to go through some like pulsing motions we're not going to try and grind this up completely because we're not looking for like a sauce. We're not looking like for a totally clean puree, okay? And no, not particularly good. We can't, I've tried to look for like how many around me. I'd have to probably order some online if I wanted to. Okay. So again, I really want to emphasize, look, if you end up over blending it, that's fine, but you need to understand why I am also emphasizing that I want this to be slightly chunky. A food processor for something like this would be ideal. A blender is fine as you pulse it. The finer you grind something up, the more difficult it will be to actually caramelize it or fry it later on. If we basically blend this up into a complete puree, we're never really going to be able to sort of fry it in the pan. We'll never be able to fry it off because it's going to be constantly releasing water. Okay? And so, keeping it really, really nice and chunky, you can even hand chop something like this is essential. So we're going for a balance here. We don't want it so fine that we can't get any color on it as it fries because then it will be too wet. Okay? But we don't want it to be so chunky that it doesn't dissolve into the stew. Okay, so pulsing motions. And then we're going to shake it up to make sure that it's evenly incorporated as we go along. Right, keeping it super simple, super like that. The thing that we're really looking for though is to break up the tomatoes more than anything and break up the garlic. And then just to try to keep the bell peppers and the onions a little bit chunkier. So we're just gonna keep going. A little bit longer, and then I'm going to inspect it. To me, so far, that actually looks pretty okay. It's pretty wet so far, probably just because from the sheer amount of tomato that's in here. I know it doesn't look particularly appealing, but this is still sans cilantro. It still does not have any of the cilantro in it. Are you allowed to make sofrito spicy hot? Oh, actually, I did want to do that. I did want to do that with some of the chilies because I had some excess chilies. Thank you for the reminder. Are you allowed to make, you can make this essentially whatever you want. This is going to be your cooking base. This is the thing that you will be using. So you're allowed to basically tailor this to your own taste and interests. Okay, so I know it doesn't look particularly appealing at the moment, and that's totally fine. I think it's just like a little bit wet because of how much tomato I have in proportion to everything else. So I'm just going to mix this up, and I'm just going to be looking to see, do I have any big pieces of garlic? That's the only thing I really want to make sure it's ground up. But take a look. You see how chunky that is? You see how it's not smooth at all? That's what you're looking for. Okay? That's exactly what you're looking for. So we're going to set some aside, and then we're going to blend the cilantro separately, just to make sure that we keep that really, really nice and chunky. And then we'll just blend some more of this down, and it'll be fine. Again, there is no like really, really strong exact science to this. The only thing that I would really emphasize for you is, you know, you would really want to try using a food processor if you have one. And separately, because I want to be very delicate with the cilantro, I don't want the cilantro to get ground up too much or anything. Okay? So, again, I know this doesn't look too ideal, my friends. I know this doesn't look really, really delicious or anything at the moment, but we got to be patient. It's going to be super, super delicious later on, okay? When we fry it up, it's going to be lovely. It looks this way mostly because of the tomato, okay? Stream done. Everybody choose. Okay, for like a $15 donation, because everybody has a price, okay? Listen, I'm a streamer. At the end of the day, I have no shame. For $15, I'll take a nice big spoon of raw garlic and onion all together. Mmm, yummy. Maybe not a big spoonful. Maybe I'll actually walk back on that promise. Okay, I'm gonna stop stirring this for now. $15 is too low. I think I'm going to regret this like immediately. But it's fine. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're also gonna get some chilies in here. Uh-oh. Oh no, it's over. I've done this to myself. Okay, so we're gonna also get some spicy chilies in here. And again, that's not particularly traditional. It's only because I have chilies and I wanted to get rid of them. And so, what better way to get rid of them than to put them in a little sofrito like this, right? So I'm just gonna chunk them up. Again, nothing crazy. The blender is going to do most of the work for us. Only a spoonful? Oh God. No. No, this can't be. I'm also considering putting like some additional bell pepper inside because I'm looking at the proportion of it and I'm feeling like this is too much tomato relative to the pepper. But it'll be fine. It'll work out. Don't worry about it too much, my friends. Okay, let's get the cilantro inside as well. So we have all this beautiful cilantro. This time we're going to keep it stems and all. I want to leave a little teeny tiny bit for the garnishing. So we're going to take like the really ugly ones and all like the really, really thick stems and stuff. And all of that is going to go towards the sofrito today. And again, ideally, you would be using cilantro because it stands up to the blending process a whole lot better. Thanks, Dosky. Dosky has donated $25, so now, yum, yum. Delicious. That's a lot. Raw onions and garlic, blend it up. Yeah, that sucked. That actually sucked as much as I thought it would. That was fairly unpleasant. And you know, I eat like whole bell peppers and I eat like whole tomatoes and I've eaten whole onions before. But I think like the raw garlic, ooh, that was intense. That was a lot. Luckily, I have no women to kiss anytime soon. So I'm fine. I remember when I was visiting somebody and I ate like the raw onion off their burger and they refused to kiss me for the entire day afterwards. So I'm fine. All right, cilantro. I'm going to go ahead and stuff it inside of the blender. We can just cut it in half once. This is not an incel stream. This is not an incel stream. You cut it out right now, Liam. Well, I hope that was worth your money. I hope that was worth your $25. So, my friends, we're just taking the cilantro and we're throwing it inside of there. And then I'm going to spoon in some of the base to help it like really, really blend up. Because otherwise, if we don't add some more like sofrito to it, the cilantro is just going to get kind of like stuck to the bottom, right? Because you can't have a blender like this not be properly filled up. So we're going to go ahead and spoon some more in. Again, I know this doesn't look too appetizing or anything at the moment, but I promise you it's all going to work out and be really, really delicious by the end of this. Chef, what's the best kind of knife for doing lots of fast chopping of the food processing parts? I mean, really any chef's knife. There is no knife that's going to be innately faster than anything, okay? So, once again, with the cilantro, we want to be fairly delicate with this. Any, like, your favorite chef's knife will do great. We want to be a little bit more delicate with this one. So, like some quicker pulses. That's what we're looking for. And I think that should even be enough. Whatever we just did, that amount of processing, that amount of blending, I think that should be plenty. Okay, and now let's go ahead and get that dumped into the bowl and then we'll have the sofrito made for when we actually need it today. Smells lovely. Ooh, the chilies really, really hit my nose just now. Maybe I should not have gotten in there so aggressively for that whiff. Okay, so that's a little bit better. Now that's bringing the green in. That looks a lot more appetizing now. Relatively speaking, that is. Yeah, I took one for the team. Oh, yeah, I really took one for the team by making $25 from it. Ooh, I ended up splashing some. Oh, no. That's okay. All right, I'm going to get the last of it out there. Come on. Come on, buddy. Out you go. Beautiful. Well, beautiful is a very strong word here. Again, this is all going to cook up. It's all going to make a really, really delicious base. So everybody, this is my sofrito that I'm doing. I have some shallots in here. I have some tomato. I have some shallots. I have some tomato. I have a bunch of garlic. I have cilantro. I have some chilies. And I have a green bell pepper. And what's going to happen is when we add this to the heat, we're going to try and cook it off. We're going to try our best to fry this. And we kept it intentionally chunky. Too fine, and we're not going to be able to fry this at all. Okay, and then I'm also going to get, like, there's some stuff still stuck inside of the blender here. I would really kill for like a nice blender food processor, maybe one day. Okay, beautiful. I'm going to go ahead and set this behind me. Is it wet from the tomato? Yeah, the tomato and the onion. This is what happens when you got blended tomatoes and onions. Okay, and then I'm going to take a second to just clean up a little bit. I'm going to just put some stuff into the dishwasher. Is everybody following along so far? Today's going to be a really easy stream. Nothing's like too crazy. You know, we're keeping it really simple. We're keeping it chill. We're just going to make some really delicious food. Okay? And that's the goal. That's what home cooking is all about, my friends. I ended up splashing some sofrito into the back of my neck somehow. Today's going to be a long day for me, though, because after the stream, I'm going to be doing some Smash commentary for the first time in a while. I'm going to be doing Coinbox tonight, if anybody's going to keep up with that. Woof. Long day. All right, I'm going to wash off my knife because I cut something acidic. I cut my tomatoes. So I want to go ahead and wash that off really, really quickly. Don't call it Jamie Oliver. Serena, I feel like that doesn't even have to be clarified. So, everybody, all we've done so far is we've done one thing. We've made the sofrito. This is going to be the base for today's pollo guisado. Okay, so we have some cilantro, we have some green bell pepper, we have some shallots, we have some garlic, and we have some red chilies. And we have a little bit of oregano as well in here, right? So it's going to be really, really aromatic. It's going to fry up super, super nicely. And also, Farag, thank you so much for the prime sub. Hope you're having a lovely day today. Now, I guess we got to get into the vegetable prep portion of this today. So what we have to do is we got to chop up some onion. I want essentially pieces of onion. I want pieces of garlic. I want pieces of bell pepper to go into today's pollo guisado. And it's going to be really delicious. So let's go ahead and do some of that prep now. Because my friends, oh my God, I'm saying that a lot today, aren't I? One of the most important things about cooking at home is getting all of your prep done in advance. You are not a chef on the line, unless that's your day job or something, but you're not a line cook. Okay, most of you guys aren't line cooks. You don't have all of your stuff already prepped and ready to go and you can throw it onto a hot pan and be done with it in 5 minutes. You have to do all of your own prep. And the worst thing that you can do is be in the middle of cooking something and have to prep at the same time. Because imagine this, imagine I'm at the stove and I'm doing stuff here and then I run back over here to chop something and you're gonna be able to burn something and then you'll be making a mess and it's stressful and it's unpleasant. The easiest thing that you can do is cook before you're hungry, okay, and get all of your prep done at your own pace. So for today, we're gonna have a bell pepper that's going into this. And so my friends, same idea. We take it, we set it down, and then we shave off the sides. We keep the white part on the inside. We keep the core on the inside. We keep all the seeds on the inside that way too. I left a little bit, okay? And then we have these beautiful planks of red bell pepper here. And so all I'm going to do, I want like medium-sized chunks here. The chicken legs, we're going to essentially keep them whole. So I want pieces of everything that are going to be able to stand up to that. That may have even been a little bit too small. I'm talking chunks. I'm feeling chunky today, okay? That's what I'm feeling. Yeah, get a load of these guys. Something like that. What do you think? I love bell peppers so much. I love them so much. I can just take a bite out of them. Okay. So, we have all these bell peppers. Let's go ahead and get them onto a plate nice and transferred for later on, for when we're ready to use them. So that's one of the bell peppers. And onto the plate it goes. And now I'm trying to think, do I want 2 bell peppers in this today? Or do you think that's going to be a lot of bell pepper? Because we want all of these ingredients to be really, really balanced with each other. We want everything to be balanced. We don't want like too many potatoes. We don't want like too many carrots or anything. We don't want like too many peppers. And so a part of me is thinking, maybe we do another one. I'm thinking okay, you know what? Let's do another one. So we're going to also include the side that I took a big bite out of because I'm cooking at home for myself. All right, that's fine. That's acceptable in my home kitchen. Okay. And I'm going to cut the core out of it. You know what? That piece will be for snacking. So, same idea. One nice big chunks. Okay, something like that. Again, we're not going too crazy with this because the goal of this is for us to have nice, big, beautiful bites of bell pepper that we can bite into. Okay, take all of that and we put it onto a plate. Excellent. I ate too much. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be so quiet at this, like at that moment. So I have an onion. I swear I had another onion. What happened to it? Ah, there it is. Okay, I just wanted 1 onion going into this today. I just wanted 1 onion, my friends. So I have 1 yellow onion here. Okay, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut the head off. And we're going to go ahead and slice it in half just like this so that we can easily peel it up. And again, all I'm really looking for today out of everything is I want some nice generous chunks, okay? I want to be able to bite into everything. This is a hearty home-cooked stew. Okay, this is home cooking. It's supposed to be simple. It's supposed to be rustic. You're not supposed to go super crazy with anything here. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut these in half like so, basically making a little incision. And then we just get a bunch of chunks of onion. And all of that is going to go into the stew, into my pollo guisado. Okay? Let's take it and let's bunch it up. And we'll put it onto the plate next to the bell peppers. Okay? And let's take the next one. Again, just medium to large chunks. You don't want them so big that it like occupies like a whole spoonful, but you don't want it so small that it's basically going to dissolve inside of the pollo guisado. And so now, take a look at this. We have a beautiful plate of some of the bell peppers and some of the onions, and all of this is going to go into the stew. I'm gonna go ahead and set that behind me. And then the other plate of vegetables we're going to have is a plate of root vegetables. So I have a carrot. We're also going to have some potatoes going into this today. And I guess the first step is going to be peeling up the carrot. Yeah, that will indeed be the first step. So let's go ahead and get that started. I don't think I'm going to use all of this carrot. I might end up only using like half of it or so. I'm going to like basically start chopping it up, and then we'll see how we feel about it. So everybody, if you do not own a nice peeler, go ahead and get one. If your peeler is dull and you're struggling through something, you gotta get yourself a new peeler. These are the kinds of things that you're going to replace every few months or maybe every year or so, depending on how often you use one. I cannot emphasize this enough. The amount of times that I've gone into somebody's home and I've seen them with a dull peeler, they're like going at it and they're like struggling. That's not what peeling is about, okay? When you have a nice peeler, you can just take it in your hands and you can just go at it. Nice and easy. So buy a new one, replace it every so often. You don't need an expensive one. Right? Get a carbon steel peeler if you feel like you're going to be washing it off often and like making sure that you're drying it off. Otherwise, just get a V-neck. Also, hi player foil. It's lovely to have you. Get a V-neck peeler. I like V-neck peelers. I like the grip on these better. Although this is completely individual preference. Some people, they have like the side ones where they're peeling this way. But I like my V-necks. Okay? And we're just going to go down this way. And we're almost done. Excellent. Okay. Great. Let's go ahead and cut the tip of it off because it's a little bit dried out there. We have no use for it. Let's cut the base of it off because it's dried out and we have no use for it. Off it goes. Okay. And so now we have to think about how do we actually evenly cut something like this up? So this is the challenge when you're working with produce. And it is that it is not necessarily always consistently shaped. It's not like a perfect cylinder, right? It's a cone. It tapers off in one direction. The risk of us, let's say we were to just chop this into straight coins, the smallest, the thinnest pieces, okay, they would be the ones that end up getting overcooked and they would end up falling apart by the time that the biggest pieces are done. This is pretty important for something like a root vegetable. And so the way we would do this, or the way that I would tackle this at least, I would at least try to find a center point of where it is thinnest and tapers off the most to the thickest point. I'm looking at it and I would say that's about right here. And we're just going to treat these two differently. Okay, we're just going to be treating these two differently. Also, welcome on in, John and Dahlia. So, with this really, really thin end, the idea is this. The further up we go and the thicker this carrot actually ends up getting, the thinner we want to cut it. The reason for that is because we're trying to essentially compensate. We're trying to compensate for the total width of it. Okay? In the thinnest portion of it, we try to cut it the thickest. And the further up we go, the thinner we'll go. Does that make any sense? Do you guys, I'll show you what it looks like by the end of it. But let's say we started out here and it's like a really, really like long piece like that. And then we're going up here and we're going slightly smaller. And we're going up here and we go slightly smaller. So by the end of it, you're actually just going to end up with a lot of really similarly sized pieces. Okay? And that's how you actually process a very inconsistent vegetable like this, when something starts out super thick to super thin. And this is important. This is important. I really, really want to emphasize the importance of this is because we don't want overcooked carrots and we don't want undercooked carrots. Okay? So with this, we're going to do even thinner pieces or so, right? Like this, and we give it a little rotation, like this, and a little rotation, just like that, all the way up the carrot. And just like that, we have, even though these don't look like they're exactly the same size, They're all going to cook more or less similarly because of the surface area. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get that into a different plate just for storage until we're ready to use it, until we're ready to eat it up. And again, this is the kind of thing that you can put as much effort into if you would like, as much as you would like, but I think it's important because I don't like having the inconsistency of the texture of my carrots. Okay, so 1 whole carrot, I've decided we'll be using all of it. And the next root vegetable that we have to talk about are going to be my little potatoes here. So I have 4 potatoes. I'm using slightly proportionately more potatoes because guess what? I love potatoes. Okay, you can use as many or as little as you'd like. These are some smaller gold potatoes. I love the texture of gold potatoes. You can use essentially any kind of potato. Okay, so things like, like waxy potatoes, things like, let's say like red skin potatoes, they're not going to break down as much inside of your stew. They're not going to be able to make it as thick. The starchier a potato is, the more it's going to thicken your stew. And these bad boys are basically right in the middle in terms of starchiness. But again, you can use whichever variety of potato because guess what? This is a stew. This is home cooking. You don't have to overthink something like this. Use what you have and use what looks good to you. So I'm going to make sure that I'm submerging these in cold water because potatoes oxidize. Okay, so I'm going to get like a little pot. This is purely for storage reasons at the moment because I've started to run out of bowls for today. And let's peel these bad boys up. Also, thank you so much to Software for the sub. Will I be eating the potatoes raw too? No, I will not. That will not be happening. Why does Scooper have a ruler? Good, I'm not sure what you're asking me. So, a little bit of cold water here. We're going to just make sure that is ready for the potatoes to plunge them in because we don't know when we'll be ready to use them. And so you're just doing that to stop it from oxidizing. Right, same idea with avocados, same thing with apples. They oxidize, they turn brown when exposed to the air. Yeah, you can eat raw potatoes, but why would you? That's right, I have no reason to do it. So, we're using our thumb as a bit of a pivot, okay? We're just keeping it centered on the potato itself, and then we're moving the potato around the peeler, okay? That's my ideal peeling technique for something like this. You can get really around that way, make really quick time of this, keeping it really simple. And we're only using 4 small potatoes. Oh, the reason why the bench scraper has a small ruler, so this is used in both pastry and in prep kitchens. Let's say like in a fine dining setting, people actually do measure out their cuts, right? Or specifically they would like use the centimeter side. So like the difference between like a brunoise versus like a fine dice would actually be a matter of centimeters. Or in something like pastry, a bench scraper is traditionally used for doughs as well. This is really, really nice for measuring out like the lengths of your doughs and being able to keep things really, really even and consistent on a commercial scale because people use bench scrapers in commercial, professional environments. Okay, so that's 1 potato peeled up. Let's go ahead and get the others peeled. And again, I think the best way to do it is if you go horizontally like this, and then you can spin it all the way around, and then if you keep it all intact, you'll look like really, really fancy. Right, we got like these really long potato peelers. Yeah, I think I'm gonna just practice doing that because it just feels cool to do. What are the potatoes for? The potatoes are going to be for the Pollo Guisado, Freddy. So the chicken stew, it's going to have carrots, it's going to have a bunch of vegetables, it's gonna be really delicious. Will you use the peel for the soup? I will not, Jack. I do not use my potato peels for other things. And that's because if you want to use your potato peels for other things, you have to scrub them beforehand. And I did not scrub my potatoes before I peeled them. But yeah, potato peels, I mean, you can fry them. They're really nice for that. Otherwise, you can use them for like compost or something. Or they can just go directly into the stew. I just want to save some time. Okay, so this potato is all peeled up. Let's keep going. Everybody following along so far? Does anybody have any questions? And then once I'm done peeling the potatoes, I'll talk about everything else that we have to do. We'll do a little bit of a recap session. Excellent. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to have all of your attention. Just keep it going, keep it peeling, until we're done with all the potatoes. And then we're just going to cut it up into slightly smaller pieces. Or I guess we can do that later because we're still going to need this cutting board for other things. And potato starch kind of gets all over your cutting board and it becomes unpleasant to work on. So, okay. That's mostly peeled. That should be fine. And last one going in now, right? So let's, ooh, my hand slipped. It's a little bit of a flat potato. Almost done, my friends. Ooh, okay, so we have an eye, or maybe like a little bit of mold inside of this potato. And so what's really, really nice, instead of like using a peeling knife or something, you can use this little tiny notch, okay, inside of your peeler to just get in there and just to be able to dig it out until you feel like it's totally gone. Yeah, so we just dug out an eye. We're just gonna clean it up, make sure there's no trace of it. We'll waste a little bit of potato if we have to. Okay? So, does the amount of water affect the potatoes in boiling? My potatoes are always mushy. So, if your potatoes are mushy, keepers, and this is for anybody, the reality is you're probably overcooking the potato. If you feel like you can't get your potato actually cooked in time, and like the outside is like mushy and falling apart, that's probably because you're starting in boiling water. If you started in boiling water when you're cooking something as thick and starchy as a potato, the outside of it is going to get overcooked. The outside of it is going to get overcooked by the time that the inside is done. So I always do my potatoes on a low simmer. I start them off in cold water and then I cook them on a low simmer, especially if it's like a really, really thick potato, to basically cook it low and slow, same way I would when I talk about like poaching chicken. Okay, so guess what? We have all these potato peels here, and I'll just cut them up now and just clean off the cutting board afterwards and it'll be fine. So let's think about the pieces of the carrot, because this is what we roughly want the potatoes to be the same size of. Okay, except we want the potatoes to be a little bit bigger. In my experience, big carrots like these, they do take a little bit longer to cook than potatoes of the same size. So we looked at those carrots. I think I'm not even going to cut these. We'll cut them in half. We'll cut them in half, and then I'm going to just chunk them up. I think for this potato even, cutting it in half like this, I mean, I don't know about you, I love biting into a massive piece of potato in something like a stew. Right? Especially like in a Japanese curry. It's one of my favorite things to bite into. So that's why I'm doing it like this. We cut it in half, and then we'll just cut it in half again. We'll keep it really, really simple for today. Maybe one more time for this one. I really love having big, chunky potatoes. And by the way, if we keep it like nice and chunky, we will stop it from like dissolving and breaking down too much. But what's, again, really, really nice about having a potato in a stew like this is when it does like break down, it makes the whole thing really nice and thick. Makes the whole thing really nice and delicious. Okay, that should be fine. That should be more than fine. Excellent. One last potato to go through. I am also a potato addict. Yeah, I had some today, and I'm gonna have even more after this. Okay, that potato is fine. It's fine, it's all gonna work out. Again, we don't have to go too crazy with this. You just want to make sure that your potatoes are actually, I'm using a bench scraper to cut, not very good form. I just already have it in my hands. These were a little bit too big for me. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and scrape this up. Oh, yes, yeah, Jack, everybody has, that is a cold potato experience. Everybody has experienced that. You're not a real potato fan unless I just dropped one on the ground. It's fine, I'm not upset. I'm definitely a little bit upset. It's clean, it's fine. 5-10 second rule. Am I gonna be munching on potatoes during commentary? Absolutely, keepers, you got it. Okay, so I'm going to just take a little wet paper towel. Keyword is wet here, and wipe down my station because this is now covered in potato starch. And if you've ever worked on a cutting board post potato starch, it is very uncomfortable. It's really, really sticky. That's it, I'm a professional chef, okay? And professional chefs drop things all the time. Okay. And we'll just wipe this off. Again, you want to wipe this off thoroughly. Okay. And I'm also going to wipe off my bench scraper because, again, it's just covered in all that like really, really sticky potato starch. Grab another one just to make sure it's like fully dry. It's getting stuck. Okay. It's not too sticky. Also, welcome on in, Loikana. Hello, hello. Okay. And my knife I'm going to quickly rinse off under the sink. Again, just to get rid of any remaining potato starch. And I'll dry it off because I'm working with a carbon steel knife. And when you work with a carbon steel knife, you got to baby that thing. You got to baby it. You got to be constantly washing it off. You got to be constantly drying it off, especially just to make sure that it does not rust. So, everybody, is everybody ready for a little recap session for anybody that might just be joining us? We're doing a Pollo Guisado today. Okay, so we're doing a stewed chicken. It's gonna be really, really delicious. We have finished essentially most of the vegetable prep. And we're soon going to get into the cooking stage of it. So let me show you all the vegetable prep that we have accomplished. In my pollo guisado, I have decided I wanted some delicious carrots. So I have 1 whole carrot. I have about 4 gold potatoes, small gold potatoes. You can use as many or as little potatoes as you would like. Okay? Then I have all of these red bell peppers chopped up. I have these onions chopped up as well. And then I made a little something called a sofrito. And a sofrito in Latin American cooking specifically is a really, really delicious aromatic base that is made from like a variety of different vegetables. And then this basically becomes what constitutes a stew, this constitutes a rice, this constitutes a dish. So in this one specifically, we have some blended up tomato, we have some blended up green bell pepper, we have some blended up chilies, garlic, some oregano, and some shallots. Shallots because I had them around. Traditionally, you would use culantro on something like this and not cilantro. I only had cilantro around, I don't have culantro in my area, but I really do recommend, if you have access to it, get culantro because it holds up to cooking and it holds on to its flavor a lot better than cilantro does. Okay, and with the cilantro, this actually looks quite appetizing. So, I'm going to set that behind me. And now we have to think about what else we need to actually prepare for today's guisado, for today's pollo guisado. The other thing we're going to do, as always, everybody, if we're making a spice blend, what are we doing first? If we're doing spices, what are we doing? You already know what we have to do. We are going to toast some spices, and we're going to grind it ourselves. Not burn them, Jack. That's what we do with peppers. We don't burn spices here, but we toast them. So let's begin that process. We're going to toast some whole cumin seeds. We're going to toast some coriander seeds. And then we're going to mix it up with a couple of others, and we'll have a lovely little mix for today's pollo guisado. Okay? So over here, I have some cumin seeds. You can't go wrong with cumin seeds, yeah? And everybody, once again, I want to emphasize over and over, I only work with whole spices. We do whole toasted spices on the stream, on this channel, and in my home kitchen. Because they're so flavorful, they hold on to their flavor a lot better than pre-ground spices do. Pre-ground spices, they lose their flavor over time when exposed to both light and oxygen because they're in a much more volatile form. Okay? Whole spices, they stay precious and aromatic so much longer. So I'm doing about a tablespoon and a half. Again, the measurements don't really matter for something like this. It's home cooking. We're keeping it really, really simple. I'm also adding about like a third of that of coriander seeds. So half a tablespoon of coriander seeds to 1.5 tablespoons of cumin. And all we're going to do, my friends, is we're going to toast it. So let's get on over to the stove. And let's hit that heat. Well, let's get cooking. Oh, and my camera flashed again. It did the thing again. Whoops. And so, as always, everybody, I want somebody to answer this for me. I've toasted spices for all of you thousands of times. What do we do when we toast the spices? Tell me, how do we toast spices? Somebody teach me really quick. What are we doing here? Why are we doing what we're doing? We're looking for little wisps. We're looking for little wisps of smoke. That's right, Dolingo. What does that tell us? And that's right, Taza. We constantly burn them. We constantly move them so that they don't burn. Yep, we're looking to release the aroma. We're looking to just change the flavor of it ever so slightly. It's going to make it a little bit warmer, is the way that it's described. Okay? And yes, we're constantly spinning, we're constantly moving. Everybody's got it. We're constantly moving it, we're constantly keeping it in motion until we see slight wisps of smoke, and then we'll grind it up. I'm going to sip on some water while that's happening. Maybe it left out a little too long. Keep it moving, keep it flipping. Just don't make a mess of it. And again, all we're looking for is slight smoking. We're still gonna be able to fry it off. So Taza, it's going to give it a burnt flavor. It's going to taste burnt. That bitterness is going to essentially override anything else that you put in because burnt things taste quite acrid. So it's not like you're losing flavor as much as you are just kind of spoiling it with the flavor of something you don't want. Okay, and we're keeping it in motion. We're keeping it moving. Keeping it tossing around, my friends. I keep saying my friends today. I don't know why. New York City water is better than Jersey water. Even if it's the same water, it's just a matter of principle and it makes me feel better about myself. Okay. And we got some slight wisps of smoke. Perfect. Let's go ahead and go on over to my mortar and pestle. And now, let's grind it up. Thank you, cute little saucepan or cute little pan. You've done a good job for us today. Let's grind it up. Everybody, we only use freshly toasted spices here. It's a completely different product. It's so much warmer, it's so much more aromatic. So, first step, we always got to crush it, because if we start spinning this immediately, it's all going to fly out of the mortar and pestle. So the first step, as always, you see what happened when we spun it a little bit too much? You just want to give it a good old crushing, a good old smashing. Okay? Go around, be nice and thorough, flatten everything that you possibly can. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right. We're doing great. Okay. 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 And now that we have, for the most part, flattened everything that we possibly could, it's time to grind it. It's time to spin it around, my friends. I did it again. So go all the way around, use the full surface area of your mortar and pestle, and you want to get a nice, delicious fine powder. Favorite movie? It's got to be Spaceballs. I grew up watching Spaceballs, and I've seen it so many different times. That movie, Keepers, Spaceballs is gift wrapped, is the best way to put it. I sometimes describe media, the things I really like as gift wrapped, because of like every single scene, and it feels so complete. Everything in Spaceballs actually just feels so well thought out. Excuse me, chef, random question, overrated or underrated spice? Ooh, that's a good question, Guido. I'm gonna have to think about it a little bit. So underrated spice, probably fenugreek. You guys have no idea how much, like, at least contextually, I associate like fenugreek as being like the base of so many different Indian dishes. I mean more so underrated in the West. Underrated in the West, and specifically in the United States, people do not give fenugreek nearly enough merit. Fenugreek is, I mean, it's so aromatic, it really can make a dish sometimes. So I really, really like it. Now, what is an overrated spice? That's a really good question. I'm trying to think about like what are even like commonly used spices. Everybody says paprika tastes like nothing. I don't think it's that overrated. I don't think anybody really like romanticizes paprika anymore. So I'm trying to think, what is an overrated spice? Cumin sucks low key. Don't say that to me. Don't say that to me. Do you understand how much cumin I eat? Do you understand that I'm going through one of these bad boys twice a month? I eat a lot of cumin. We don't say that, keepers. I know that might have been bait, but guess what? You've successfully baited me. I'm a little agitated. It's fine. I think, you know what? I think cinnamon. Cinnamon. I'm not crazy about cinnamon. Actually, I think I can like immediately point it out on something. I mean, I do like cinnamon and like other like really developed like spice blends and stuff. But I'm very tired and bored of it in desserts, I think. Okay, so let's keep grinding. Again, we want to get a nice fine powder. Get rid of any remaining shells, any husks, any fibers. Okay. Ooh, ouch. Okay, I gotta put a glove back on because my fingers are not too happy with me at the moment. I don't want to describe the gory details of what just happened, but I burnt myself with oil earlier, and my like pinky and ring finger aren't doing so well. But it's okay. People hate so much on bay leaf. Like, why? Because Jack, they're typically overcooking their bay leaves, I think. When you overcook your bay leaf, it kind of loses its flavor over time. And people don't use enough of it. People really don't use enough of it. To really taste it, you need quite a few more leaves than you would think. But in like broths, I think it's very noticeable. I think it'd be really subtle and really delicious. Okay, so to me, this is fine. Doesn't have to be like a complete fine powder as long as it's mostly ground up. And now I will be using one of my favorite toys, one of my favorite little tools, these tiny little stainless steel condiment bowls. Okay, I love these things to death. Little stainless steel condiment bowl. And I'm gonna go ahead and dump all that in. And then we're going to assemble the rest of the spice blend. because some stuff is already ground that I have. Okay, excellent. Okay, so in here, we're actually going to be adding a few more things. I'm not using pimento stuffed olives. Traditionally, for a dish like this, you would use pimento stuffed olives. So guess what? I'm going to just throw in a little teeny tiny bit of pimento, because this is what I really also associate with ropa vieja. A tiny bit of pimento. This is not something that you want to become overpowering. So I'm basically using whatever this amount is relative to the cumin and coriander. Maybe a touch more. Again, I don't want the pimento to become overpowering, but just a little bit of it really builds, it just gives it another dimension. But too much pimento and it just tastes kind of like, you're like, oh, this is kind of funky in not a good way, in my experience. Okay, so that looks good. We can add some paprika as well, just purely for fun. The paprika is not going to add anything really flavor-wise, but it's going to make the whole thing like really nice and red. So I'm basically adding it in as a color component, just because I have some. Okay, excellent. And there you go, that's gonna be my spice blend. And then, actually, I am going to add one more thing. I'm going to actually use a little spice mix. And I don't typically, for anybody that watches me, you might have heard me go on about spice mixes and how I don't really like them. I really, really like sazon. I really like this stuff right here. I really, really like sazon. Specifically Goya sazon with the annatto seeds in it. And so, annatto seeds, they're going to stain the whole thing like this really, really pretty bright orange. I mean, you can also just use this. Like sometimes I just make beans with this. Okay, I'm going to use a double pack of sazon. And again, these are pre-ground spices, so they can only be so flavorful. That's why I'm like using 2 separate packets of it. Oh, I think I didn't actually tell it enough. That's on me. But again, for something like this, this is kind of the only way that I have like annatto seeds available to me. I really, really like the flavor and I really like the color that annatto seeds give into a dish. Okay, it's really, really tasty stuff. So 2 packs of sazon going inside as well. And again, we're still getting the warmth from like our home toasted spices, but there's just some things that I don't really have access to. And sazon is something that everybody should have in their cabinets. I mean, I make beans with it all the time. It's really, really the best. No, audio Murphy, it's not. All right. Okay, so this is my spice mix. Freshly toasted cumin seeds, because we only work with whole toasted, well, not only, I kind of contradicted myself. We try to work with whole toasted spices whenever we can. So whole toasted cumin, whole toasted coriander, we added in some paprika, we added in some pimento, and then of course we added in some sazon, okay? And this is all in my pretty little condiment bowl, and all of this is going to be going into today's Pollo Guisado. And then the other thing that we'll also be using later on, I don't really have to measure this out, we'll be using some, chicken bouillon powder. Because I don't have any chicken stock, but also nothing really quite tastes like chicken bouillon powder. I really, really heavily associate this with like a lot of like Latin American stews and dishes, and this is considered like a pantry staple for me for. How long do you cook the Pollo Guisado for? It's really not going to be more than an hour or anything. So I'm going to have this out. And that being said, I think that was actually all of the prep. Whoa, everybody, that was all the prep. That was all the prep. Okay. Everybody, let's do one more recap and then we'll actually begin cooking the Pollo Guisado. So, we're making a really, really beautiful chicken stew, okay? So I have these 4 chicken legs that we butchered ourselves a few days ago, okay? We use the breast, we use the bones for a bunch of other stuff, and the legs today are going to actually go into a lovely little chicken stew. I have a Puerto Rican inspired, not completely traditional, sofrito. So in here, we have blended up green bell pepper, we have blended up tomato, we have blended up garlic, we have blended up shallot because I have shallot around, blended up cilantro, and also oregano. That's what I forgot. I was thinking about it for a second. And this is what's going to be the base of today's stew. It's going to be really, really delicious. It's going to, give it like that really, really iconic flavor that we're looking for, okay? As for what is actually going to go into the stew itself, we have some lovely bell peppers and onions here. This was about 1.5 bell peppers. This was 1 yellow onion that we just chopped them up. And I want nice, generous pieces, okay? Because I really want to be able to feel them when I actually eat it. Then we have some potatoes. We have some of these nice little potatoes. We have 4 gold potatoes. I'm using gold potatoes because those are the ones that I always have at home. You can use any kind of potato. In fact, waxy potatoes would be really good for a stew like this. You can do it skin on or skin off. If you're doing it skin on, you have to really scrub it well. But I love the starchiness of these gold potatoes, and I love how when we add them into something, when they break down a little bit, they'll make the whole thing really nice and thick, just like me. Sorry, it's a family show. Okay, moving on. I have also 1 whole carrot that we ended up chopping up, okay, into fairly equal sized pieces. And these will get added simultaneously with the potatoes so that they all cook at the same time, okay? And then finally, we made this really delicious spice mixture, this really delicious spice blend. So in here, we have cumin, we have coriander seeds that we toasted, we ground it up ourselves, we added in some sazon, we added in some paprika, and we added in some pimento. And if you give that a smell, it's really aromatic. It's really delicious, okay? Excellent. And so, here's the order of operations. The order of operations is going to be as follows. We're going to first sear the chicken. We want to get some good color developed on that chicken, okay? I mean like properly and fully brown it. Okay, afterwards, we're going to have developed a lot of fond on the bottom of the pan. And no, Audio Murphy, we'll not be demoting the chicken for today. We're going to develop a lot of fond on the bottom of the pan. We're going to add in the wet sofrito, and then we're going to try our best to evaporate some of the liquid and fry it off, okay? And then after that essentially fries off for a little bit, we're going to add in the chicken again. We're going to add in the bell peppers and the onions, and then we're going to cover the whole thing. Well, first we're also going to fry the spices. Then we're going to cover the whole thing with water, and we're going to add a bunch of the chicken bouillon powder to the whole deal. We're going to let that cook a little bit, and while that's cooking, we'll be working on the salad simultaneously, and then we'll finish it off with the potatoes and the carrots. The reason I've stopped putting potatoes and carrots in the beginning of things is because I find that it's actually nice to do it last, since that's the one thing you can't overcook. If you overcook the potatoes and carrots too much, the whole thing is just going to become mush. Okay, and so I want to make sure my other vegetables are tender. I want to make sure my chicken is mostly cooked through, and the potatoes and the carrots, we're really controlling how much they cook at the end of the process. So I'm getting my Dutch oven ready. I'm going to turn it onto the heat, and then I'm going to show you how we get this started. So everybody, what's my number 1 rule with Dutch ovens? Don't blast the heat, number 1. Number 2, don't heat it up when it's empty. Treat this like you would a nonstick pan. We need a bunch of olive oil in here, okay? We need a bunch of olive oil, and we might even use a little bit of chicken fat because I have some leftover chicken fat from a different thing that we did. But some chicken fat's also going to render out of the chicken legs themselves. We need a bunch of oil going into this because we need enough to be able to also compensate for the sofrito so that we can actually properly fry the sofrito. And we want to make sure that we get a nice even sear on the chicken. Everybody, treat your Dutch ovens like you would a very nice nonstick pan. You don't want to destroy it with heat. You don't want to blast it with heat. You're going to damage your nonstick coating over time. Also adjusting. Oh, I guess it was already perfect. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so we have a bunch of olive oil going into this. Okay, I'm thinking, what do you think? Should we use some of the chicken fat that I have in the fridge? Are you guys feeling chicken fat today? I'm thinking about if I am. And in the meantime, I'm actually just going to put some of this stuff away just to keep my station nice and clean as we keep going. Sorry if I'm blocking the view for everybody. What do you guys think? A little bit of chicken fat? Okay, let's do that. So let's get my chicken fat out. I'm going to show it to you now. So this is the chicken fat that I basically took out from the broth. I intentionally left it like this to almost drain the liquid out of it, because otherwise it would be like wet when we put it in and it would start popping all over the place. So I'm going to put in a few lumps of it, but I really want to make sure more than anything that this chicken fat is dry, okay? It does look like butter because it's an animal fat, right? I'm almost like also like wiping it down simultaneously because I didn't drain it off perfectly. Again, if it's really wet, it's going to just splash all over the place. All right, so I'm not using all of the chicken fat or anything. I'm slightly wiping it off, which is kind of weird to do. But otherwise, it's just going to pop and create a huge mess. And in fact, I can already hear it start to pop and sizzle. Again, I want a lot of fat. I want a lot of fat. We're going to make a big portion of today's stew, okay? So, back to the stove. We're going to get that oil nice and hot. That's going to be popping a little bit. I don't really like the idea of popping oil at the moment because I did burn myself with oil today, so I'm a little on edge about it still. The only thing we're going to do is we're going to season up our chicken in the meantime. So, let's come back here. Oh, that's the wrong one. I meant to do this. Let's come back to the cutting board really quickly. And we're going to get that oil smoking hot, okay? I'm using olive oil, by the way, because all of the oil is going to end up going into the stew itself. So we really want a tasty, delicious fat. Ideally, you'd be using just chicken fat. Yeah, that's splashing. We're not gonna worry about it for now. We're gonna just let it do its own thing for a little bit while it's just cooking off that liquid. You want a really, really tasty fat. If you're using something, let's say, considered like a canola oil, if you were to use like a canola oil in something like this, you're just gonna get a bunch of canola oil in your stew. And canola oil isn't particularly tasty. It's more of a lubricant than anything else. I'm using olive oil and I'm using chicken fat because they're really, really delicious. Also, Dreamer, they have been lovely. It's good to see you again. So, we have these 4 chicken legs. First thing that we have to do is we're going to have to pat them dry. Okay? We want to pat them dry so that they can get a nice good seal and they can adhere to the salt well. Otherwise, it's just going to splash a bunch when we put it in. So you're going to take a paper towel and you're going to pat these bad boys dry. You're going to get rid of any moisture that could be on these things. Any little tiny splash of moisture. Okay? Really get it in there. Dry it off. You do not want these things to be wet. But yes, everybody, you have to think about what kind of oils you're using and why. In stews, in soups, generally speaking, I will prefer to use something like an olive oil. I'll prefer to use something like an animal fat because all of it is going back into it at the end of the day, and we don't need like a super high smoke point fat. Keepers, I've never made a dish on stream that I did not like. I think the thing that I liked the least was maybe the scallion pancake because it was kind of whatever, and I've decided this is not a very good food for me to make at home. I think that might have been like the one thing that I was like the closest to like disliking. But everything that I've made on stream has actually been really, really delicious. So, we're patting the whole thing dry. Okay? Really, really thoroughly. Because again, we want to get some good color on these legs. And now, we're going to season these bad boys up with a nice clean hand. And I mean generously season it. A lot of the salt is going to fall off of it. We want to get as much of it to stick as possible. Generously, generously cover your lovely little chicken legs here with the salt. And how's my oil doing? Is it smoking yet? It's not quite there yet. We're going to get that oil nice and hot. And everybody, I want to emphasize once again, we preheat our Dutch ovens on a medium heat over time. We don't just crank up the heat really quickly. That's because cast iron, any kind of cast iron, if you just crank up the heat super, super high, you're going to have cool zones and you're going to have hot zones. By heating it up longer and slower over time using a medium heat, what you will end up with is a much more evenly heated piece of cast iron. Okay? So, finishing the salting process, we're nice and generous with it. Nice and generous, plenty of salt. Again, a lot of it is going to fall off during the cooking process. We just want to get as much of it on it as we can as possible at the moment. Okay? And I'm going to switch out my now contaminated gloves. And so, again, we're looking for the oil to be like, shimmering, slightly smoking. And I believe we can actually begin the cooking process. So I'm going to first put on another glove for my poor, dainty, delicate hand. And we're going to begin the process of the Pollo Guisado. So we're going to get a nice good sear on the chicken legs. We want to get some of that browning. We want to get some of that flavor develop, some of that color. And then we also want to melt out some of that chicken fat so that we can then cook. All the sofrito in the melted chicken fat and make it really, really delicious. So we're adding these in. We're moving it around, adding it in. And again, because we dried it off, because we air dried it in the fridge, they're not going to splash too much. And 4 chicken legs fits perfectly inside of the confines of this little Dutch oven. And look at it go. It's going. So again, we're looking for some nice color developed, and also because of my stove, because of the fact that it's slightly tilted, I'm going to do one little thing to it. We are going to give it a 180-degree rotation, just to make sure that the oil evenly distributes everywhere. Okay? I'm going to take this, And I'm going to quickly throw this into the dishwasher because I have no more use. Actually, no. We're going to pull the chicken out and I'm going to put it back on the sheet tray. The goal of this, once again, I want to emphasize, is not to get this fully cooked through. We just want to get some color developed. Okay, I'm gonna have a little bit of water. So, everybody, I'm gonna talk some smack for a second. Before I do any sort of dish on stream, I like to take inspiration from others and see what others are doing and what they're not doing. And let me tell you something, I really do not like when people for their Pollo Guisado, they like to pre-season their meat with all of their different spices. We have a bunch of spices that are going to go into this today. But by the time that your meat on the inside, or it gets any sort of coloring that you would like, the spices on the outside, they would end up burnt, especially if they're really, really finely ground. That's why we only season it with the salt, because the goal right now is just to develop some of that brown color. We're still gonna get all the spices inside of the stew itself. I think it's a bad choice to pre-spice and pre-season your chicken with anything other than salt at this stage. Because we want some color, we want some real proper browning developed, okay? We don't just want the spices to get burnt on the outside. We want that skin to get nice and brown. We want it to get nice and crispy. We want all of that fond developed. We want that chicken fat melted. And the other thing that you have to do is make sure that you're not overcrowding your Dutch oven. If your pot is too small, consider doing this in 2 separate batches. Because if you crowd it in a little bit too tight, it's just going to end up releasing water, and then it's going to end up steaming instead of actually properly frying in all of that oil. Also, El Fohammer, the beauty of having a wire rack. So, El Fohammer has asked me, when frying, what do you think of laying things on a wire rack versus a paper towel? The reason why you want to do a wire rack is because it doesn't steam on the plate. You're not really worried about the oil pooling and making it soggy. You're worried about it steaming and making it soggy. Anytime, let's say like you do, how many times have you done like a grilled cheese, put it on a plate, and saw that the bottom of it is soggy? Okay, that's because when something is hot like that, it's releasing steam as it cools, and it will end up, you'll ruin like the crust that you've ended up developing. So, that's why we do it on a wire rack, not just to drip out the oil, but to simultaneously prevent it from getting soggy via the steam. So wire rack, in my opinion, is multifunctional. So I would actually do both paper towel, tap it dry, and then I would also put it on a wire rack afterwards. Okay, so we're gonna take a little peek. We're gonna see how the legs are developing. They're looking really, really good at the moment. Oh yeah, we properly heated up the Dutch oven. Nothing is sticking. Again, everybody, medium and slow. Medium and slow. Getting a good color, getting a good crust is not always about the temperature. It's not always about blasting it to super high heat. It's a relationship between both temperature and time. Now, if you cook it too long, the meat is going to end up releasing its liquid, and then you'll never be able to get a proper sear on it. But I promise you, with something like chicken legs, medium and slow, you're going to get the crust that you want, so as long as you don't overcrowd that Dutch oven. We have enough fat. The smell is excellent. You can smell the frying chicken fat. You can smell the frying olive oil. The chicken fat is slowly coming out of those thighs. We're going to have some beautiful legs. Okay? And then once this is done, we're going to dump in a bunch of that sofrito in. We're going to fry it off. We're going to get some color on it. Hopefully evaporate some of the liquid. It's going to be excellent. I'm excited. I'm really excited for today's Pollo Guisado. And once everything is stewing, we're going to be working on the salad, just to make sure that everything is just going in. I can leave it alone. Okay, so we're not like prepping, we're not chopping while something is searing on the pan. Let's go and take a look at it. Let's take a little peek. Okay, it's looking good. I feel like it can use a little bit more color for sure. Whoop, I didn't mean to flip you yet. You're not ready to go, my friend. I definitely want some more color on this before I feel confident to flip it. And so, that's why we move it around. The second rule about developing a nice crust on something, the second rule about getting some good color, you don't actually want to leave it completely still. The reason for this is because you develop hot zones and cool zones. The cool zones are wherever the meat is currently in contact, and the hot zones are where it's not. By giving it a rotation, you're letting the cool zones get hot again, and you're letting the hot zones actually work their way onto the meat. So, we're going to go in there, and we're going to rotate everything. Just like this. Okay? Everybody, how many times have you heard, like especially when you're making a steak, oh, you put it down and you don't touch it, you don't flip it. How many of you have heard that? How many of you have heard that from somebody else? Don't touch it, don't flip it, just let it do its thing. It's nonsense. It's absolutely nonsense. That's how you end up with a splotchy crust. By moving it around every 20 to 30 seconds or so, okay, and transferring it from the cool zones to the hot zones, you're going to get a nice even crust developed on any of your seared meat. It's a lie. Do not let big steak YouTube, do not let big steak content tell you that you should only flip it once. It's completely nonsense. So, we're giving these things slight rotations. We're just keeping it going. We're rotating. We're rotating. Slightly stuck to the sides where the skin made contact. It's looking good though. How's this bad boy doing? Oh yeah, it's looking good. A little bit more time on the side, and then we'll flip it around. Again, getting a good crust, it's about heat and it's also about time. So we're not slamming it with heat. We're not going to just blast it with heat. We're being nice and patient. And big steak content keepers, I mean, it's all the people on food YouTube that spent years spreading disinformation, misinformation about steaks and how to use them. Okay, years and years of misinfo. We're going to get a really, really delicious pollo guisado. Is everybody excited for today's pollo guisado? I am. Also, does anybody have any questions in the meantime? Now that we're just chilling out for a second, this would be a good time to ask me. Anything that you would like. Because remember, also, I have a question. Do we have anybody new here? Is this for anybody like their first stream? First Daramgar cooking stream? Because I'm just curious. This is your first stream, keepers? That's right. Jack, it's fine as long as you keep it reasonable. How should we use duck broth, chef? Asks Serena Chess. You can use duck broth in any instance that you would use chicken broth. You can use it like a beef broth. Think about it like beef broth. It's a little bit more intense. It's a little bit more rich than chicken broth is. Use it in stews, make a sauce out of it. Serena, use it like you would a broth. Okay, let's go ahead and check on that chicken one more time. Ooh, look at that crust. Nice and golden. Let's give it all a nice little flip. Beautiful. Beautiful. And beautiful. Excellent. And now, it's frying in all of that chicken fat. I'll get a sip of water in a second. Come to Brazil? I mean, I don't know if I can come to Brazil, but I would love to make some Brazilian food on the stream. That would be really sick. I am going to take my Dutch oven, and I'm going to give it another rotation. Excellent. Just like so. Just to make sure that everything is evenly cooking. I really want to do feijoada. I haven't done one yet. I've never made feijoada before. I've never made any kind of Brazilian food before, if you can believe it. And I really, really want to. Everybody, we're getting a really delicious crust on the chicken. The only thing is I'm going to move one to the side, just so this guy can catch up a little bit. Excellent. It's frying in all of that fat. It's releasing all of that fat. All of this is going to be the base of a really, really delicious guisado, my friends. A really delicious pollo guisado. Also, welcome on in Hotepes. Is that how you say it? I'm not sure if I said it correctly. Okay, hydrate. I was supposed to get some water in me. That's right. Yeah, today's stream, it's a simple one. It's an easy one. And honestly, I kind of need that sometimes. Sometimes we just need simple and easy home food. And the beauty of this is that most of this is stuff that I already had at home. Because it's all about building up your home cooking ecosystem. Are you listening? I want to make sure that everybody's listening. It's about building up your home cooking ecosystem. It's about looking at what you have in the fridge and using what you have. You know what I had in the fridge? I had chickpeas, we were making a salad. I had parsley, we were making a salad. We had cilantro, I'm making a salad, and I put it into the sofrito. I had the 4 chicken legs, we were making the guisado. Okay? we are using all of these different things that I already had in my fridge that I needed to repurpose before it went bad. That's what it means to build up a home cooking ecosystem. Okay? That's what it means. And to me, I think it is one of the most important things that you can do to really get good at cooking. It's about mitigating waste. It's about using what you have. It's about being creative and experimenting with the things that you have. Oh, this chicken is looking excellent. We're going to give it a nice little rotation. I'm here to help you all learn how to cook at home. Nothing that I am teaching you are special occasion dishes. None of this is garbage food content that's what's the best way to cook a steak, part 58. It's not a turducken. I'm not teaching you croque en bouche. Everything that I'm teaching you is how to elevate home cooking to the best and highest potential. That's what it means to cook at home, my friends. Okay? It's to make things realistic. It's to use what you have, but it doesn't have to just be quick little 30-minute dishes. You can still give it a lot of love. You can still give it a lot of attention. And you can make really delicious special food. So, our chicken has gotten plenty of color. We've melted plenty of fat. It looks incredible at the moment, I have to say. Okay. I'm going to give that another second. All I'm going to do, though, I'm going to just rotate it back again. Just to make sure, again, that everything is coloring evenly and that we have no blind spots of any kind. And having this much oil, the thing you need to all understand about when you're cooking with oil is a medium of conduction. Okay? What it does, if you think about a straight piece of meat and you were to cook it without any kind of fat on straight metal, on a flat piece of metal, you're going to get complete blind spots in your crust and browning. That's because meat buckles as it cooks. It buckles. And oil does a very nice job of getting in between the crevices, okay? And wrapping around the sides of a curved piece of meat and getting color evenly. That's why we started with so much oil. Because look at this piece of chicken. I want to show you all. Look at this piece of chicken right here. Look how nice the crust we got developed on it, all the way around. I don't know if you guys can see it too well like this, maybe like this. We got a crust developed all the way around. Excellent. Okay, I think that's enough searing of the chicken. Let's pull it off and put it onto my cooling tray. The next step is we're going to quickly fry the spices, really quickly, and then we're going to add in the sofrito. So, it's olive oil, it's chicken fat that we had from before, and the chicken fat that we got from these thighs. I'm going to pull it out. Right now, we're pulling it off, and I'm putting it back on the same cooling tray with the raw chicken, because it's still going to get cooked after. This chicken is not at all done yet. Okay? So look at this. I want you all to take a look at the bottom of this pot. Look at the bottom of this pot. You see all those little brown bits? You see all those little brown bits? Also, Jack, I'll answer your question in a second. We're just doing things right now. Look at all the brown stuff at the bottom. Does somebody know what the name of this is? What is the culinary term for this? Somebody, quick, tell me. Who knows what that is? I don't think that's what that is for audio. Zio got it. Zio got it. Everybody, this is fond. These are dissolved proteins that come out of the liquid of the chicken as it cooks. It comes out of the chicken skin. These are dissolved proteins that came out of the water evaporated, and then it sticks to the bottom. This is how we get a lot of really, really incredible flavor. So here's what we gotta do. We're going to toast and fry our spices really quickly in this fat. We have a lot of fat. The spices can burn in a second. So just before it burns, we're gonna add in the sofrito. Is everybody ready? This is gonna go fast. I wanna hear a yes, chef, right now. This is not a question. This is a command. You guys like that, don't you? You guys like it when I tell you what to do. Perfect. So, I'm gonna make sure that my sofrito is right next to me and that it's going to be ready to go, because that is what's going to stop the spices from burning. We burn the spices and the whole thing is ruined. Okay, the whole thing is just gone. So, into this fat, go the spices. And we're really quickly just stirring the spices. We're incorporating it into the fat. And we're letting this go for like 10 seconds. Okay? 10 seconds. We're keeping it stirring. We're mixing it up. We're keeping it stirring. And now sofrito. That's it. That's all the frying we need. Beautiful. And now the sofrito is in. Before the spices had a chance to burn. Scrape up the stuff from the bottom. Use the liquid of the sofrito. And here's the goal now. Oh, that smells majestic. That smells excellent. You guys have no idea how good this all smells, huh? The fried spices, the sofrito plunging in, cooling the whole thing off. Beautiful. Beautiful. Nothing short of beautiful. We're scraping up the bottom. We're getting off any fond. The moisture allows us to deglaze the fond, dissolve it inside, and there it is. Now it's going. Oh, everybody, we are cooking. That smells remarkable. That smells remarkable. I'm telling you right now, that we had the toasted sazon, we had the toasted cumin seeds, we had the toasted coriander seeds, we had the sazon, we had the paprika, okay? We had the pimento. We fried that in all the chicken fat, and all that beautiful chicken fat, and all that beautiful olive oil. And then we hit it with the sofrito, this delicious homemade sofrito, okay? And so now the goal is this. We want to essentially cook out the liquid. We want to boil it again until it starts frying again. And you can tell the difference between frying versus boiling based on the sound that it gives. If it's a high-end noise, it's like a psss. It's like a sizzle. That's how it's telling you that it's frying in fat. If you hear a psh, a bit of a lower-end sound, that's telling you that it is cooking in water, or rather that water is currently evaporating at the moment. We want to evaporate the water so that we get to develop and fry the sofrito a little bit. Okay? We don't want to just boil the sofrito, although that would be fine too. We want to evaporate enough of the liquid that the remaining fat, that all the solids will still be able to fry in. And so in order to do that, we have to evaporate it. If we made a complete puree out of the sofrito and not like this fine chunk, we'll never be able to actually get that color off because we'd have to be constantly stirring it and evaporating it of its liquids for a very long amount of time. Is everybody following along so far? Does everybody understand? Everybody, I am excited. I am incredibly excited for today's food. It's going to be really, really good. So we're stirring it up. We're making sure that nothing is squelching on the bottom especially, and we're scraping up anything that could be potentially stuck and burning on the sides of our pot. And you give it a smell. I mean, this is what you want out of Pollo Guisado. It is aromatic. It is flavorful. You're getting all of the spices. I do not mess around when I cook. I do not mess around. Chat, what do we not do? My little sous chefs, what do we not do here? That smells great. I'm really excited for it. Oh, I wanted a comforting Pollo Guisado, and I'm going to get one, damn it. I'm just wiping off my station right now here because it's a little bit like covered in all of like the oil that ended up splashing. Much when we cook, chef? Thank you. All right, everybody. So while this is cooking, once again, I'm going to do a little plug of my Patreon. Everybody, I am really, really passionate about keeping these streams free for everybody to watch. I want to spread my knowledge. I want to help you. That's you, talking about you personally. That's right. I'm trying to help you learn how to cook. And in order to do that, because I want to be able to keep up my model, I want to not have advertisements. I want to not run advertisements on anything. I don't want to take sponsorships from garbage cookware companies and be a little sellout like Mr. Gordon Ramsay. In order to do that, I need to rely on some of you guys to be able to help out with the cost of some of my groceries, some of my ingredients. Subscriptions are helpful, tips and donations are helpful, but really, if anything, just a little bit on the Patreon every single month helps to subsidize the cost of the groceries to be able to run and put on the show. Okay, because above all else, I want to be able to keep this accessible, and if you have a little bit of extra change, then it helps. But you're not obligated to do so. Okay, we're keeping this cooking, we're keeping this going, and we're making sure to stir this often, especially the sides, because some of the sofrito can get on the sides of the pot, and it can easily burn that way. We're just evaporating all the liquid. We're getting all of this delicious sofrito on the bottom, and the smell is incredible. The smell is actually just so lovely. So, you can already see how the sofrito is thickening up. It's thickening up. It's looking a little bit more like a paste now. This is the critical stage where it can start scorching and it can start burning on the bottom. So, you got to make sure that you're moving it around often. And we're going to be, of course, making it's a stew at the end of the day. We're going to be reintroducing liquid after this browns. So, for some of you, you may be confused. Why are we actually evaporating the liquid? If we're just going to add more liquid later, we're evaporating the liquid so that we actually give everything a chance to fry in the fat. Okay? because by frying it in the fat, we're actually changing the flavor of the whole dish. We're changing the flavor. We're actually getting a little bit of sweetness out of it. We are getting some more like intense roasted flavors out of all the vegetables, as opposed to just boiling it. Okay, so we first evaporate all the water. We fry it in the existing fat. Okay, we stir it off on the bottom, and then we're going to add back in liquid when we're ready to braise and cook everything along. Oh, gorgeous. Everybody, this pollo guisado is going to be no joke. Ooh, my hand hurts. I should really be putting on a glove for this. You can start seeing on the bottom. This is what you're looking for. You can start seeing the fat separate. You can start seeing the fat separate from the solids. That's what you're looking for. Also, thank you for stopping by, Chess. And then after this, we're going to work on the salad. But this is where you're stirring often. This is where you're making sure things aren't actually like breaking apart. And this concept, you see this also really, really commonly in African cuisine. You see this when you're making, let's say, like a jollof rice, right? You're cooking like this paste of like peppers and stuff, and you're cooking it in a bunch of oil. You're evaporating the liquid, and you're looking for the fat to start separating again. So it's a very similar concept here. And again, a lot of people, especially at home, they don't really go this far. They don't really go through this additional step. When I see them do a pollo guisado, or when I see them, like make a sofrito at home, but we're doing the extra step because guess what? We do it better and we give it a lot of love here. We're doing this extra step to be able to build additional flavor. And now you can see all of that fat is separating from those solids. So we're mixing it up often. We're scraping it up often. Okay? And now, oh, everything here is frying. It smells heavenly. The frying onion, the frying tomato, the frying garlic as well. Everybody, this sofrito is becoming so flavorful. Just by doing this extra step, by going this extra mile. But you don't want to walk away. You don't want to burn this. This can easily burn if you're not stirring it as often as I am. Okay, so we're taking a second, we're taking a sip of water, but do not walk away from the kitchen. Burn this now, and you've wasted all of your spices, you've wasted all of your beautiful produce, you've wasted all of your fat, everything is gone, and you'll have to start over. Because if this is burnt, your entire stew is going to taste burnt. This is a critical, critical step. You have to have enough fat to evenly conduct the heat around each of the solids. It's sizzling along now. It's looking super, super good. It's looking super delicious. It's full of flavor. And it's going to make us the best pollo guisado in the Northeast. The best. Why is Jack the only person that said yes, chef? Are we serious? Everybody? Come on. You're slacking. Thank you, Jack, for saying yes, chef. Perfect. That's what I want to see. Okay. It's getting there. We're getting there. A little bit longer, but it is now properly frying, and we can be confident in that. So the thing you just have to be ready with, whenever you're ready to go, just make sure you have your thing of water. And that's going to deglaze the whole thing here. So we're frying it along, we're keeping it going. Okay, good. I'm glad everybody's waking up a little bit. We're not messing around here. You got a stoplight, Serena Chess? Please don't reply to me on Twitch while you got a stoplight. I appreciate your dedication. That's very sweet of you. I'm very flattered that you would do that. But please be safe. Oh, the sofrito is no joke. The sofrito is really, really special. I think this is going to be a very incredible dish today. I really do. And you can see how much volume we've lost. You can see how much of that was actually the water weight, okay? So it's frying, it's developing flavor, we're being nice and patient with it. And I'm thinking, actually, the only thing we'll do, I was considering it for a little bit, I'm going to add a little squish of tomato paste in. I know we have some tomato in the sofrito itself, but I was thinking I want some more. Typically, you see people with their pollo guisados, they add like a tomato sauce to it. I just want some just straight tomato paste, because I don't like my stews being too tomato forward. I find that the tomato becomes like immediately overpowering. So you'll see this when I do like chilies or like ragouts or something. I never add too much tomato. So I'm only adding a little bit of tomato paste here, and I'm going to mix it in. Okay, so tomato paste getting mixed into the sofrito now. And that's going to just amp up the meatiness. It's going to give us the tomatoey flavor that we really want. But I'm not adding like a whole thing of tomato sauce as I see people often do with their pollo guisados. I'm not doing anything quite like that. Because I just don't agree with it conceptually. I don't agree with having everything be so tomatoey based. Because that's not the joy of it for me. For me, it's all about the sofrito. Okay, so this guy is now done. This is now fried. It's time to now hit this with a bunch of water. It's time to hit this with a bunch of liquid. Let's deglaze this bad boy one more time. And in the water it all goes. And we need enough that we're almost entirely covering the chicken legs. Some of the water is going to evaporate. We need this liquid. Okay? We need this liquid. It is essential. And pouring it all in. And again, we can always evaporate some, but consider this. The potatoes are going to thicken it. Okay, and we need enough to be able to actually properly cover the chicken. So I'm taking my spoon before anything else, and I am scraping up the sides of this pot. All of these little solids, all these little caramelized solids, everything is going back into the pot. Everything is going back inside. Okay, because we don't want to waste anything, and we don't want to burn anything on the edges of the pot. A silicone spatula is very nice for a job like this, by the way. If you have one on hand, mine is currently dirty at the moment. It's just very nice for getting into the sides of the pot. Already, even with just like the spices and liquid, despite the fact that the chicken hasn't braised this yet, despite the fact that we haven't done much at all, this is super flavorful as it is. Okay, so one more thing we're going to do. We're going to add some chicken bouillon now. We're going to add some chicken bouillon. I'm doing half a tablespoon of it. You can use as much or as little as you'd like. I'm not really measuring. I don't really care about the measurements for something like this, and we'll just be able to adjust it later on. That's going to really, really amp it up. That's going to make it really nice and meaty, really nice and delicious. I'm just stirring it in. Okay, getting it all inside. And again, we're going to just add more liquid as needed just to keep everything nice and submerged. Because at the end of the day, this is a guisado. Okay, it's a stew. So we're going to add in, at this point, I didn't want to necessarily seal, or color my bell peppers too much. Ooh, look how nice that water reflection looks. Hold on. Everybody, you seeing this? Look how nice that looks, huh? Just like in the light. Looks like a lake. That is a lake of sofrito. So I'm going to add in my bell peppers and onions. I just wanted my vegetables to just be the texture component. I didn't care about frying these vegetables. And so, to stop this from splashing, I'm getting really, really close, and I'm dragging it against the edge of the pot. If you did it from super high up, you're going to just end up splashing this all over the place. Okay? So, we're adding in all of my lovely little vegetables. Excellent. And then, we're going to get our chicken legs inside. It almost does look like a mole, but except it's not viscous at all. We don't have any nuts, we don't have any seeds, it kind of has the color of it a little bit, but not fully. Okay, and now we're going to tuck in and wish them a little good night. My little chicken legs. Hello, my friends. I've missed you all so much. Did you miss me? Hi. So we're going to tuck these in. We're not going to completely submerge them, although it doesn't really matter. Look at these beautiful crispy chicken legs. Look at that. And again, that crispiness, it's not going to last. Everybody say goodbye to the crispiness, but we're going to say hello to a beautifully braised and soft and tender piece of guisado, of pollo guisado at the end of this. And look at that. There it is. That is the start of something really, really special. So again, we're going to lose that crispiness in this process, but that's completely okay. And so, all of the aggressive stuff, all of the frying, all of that business, it is now concluded. We've done all the hardest parts. We have very little left to do for the actual pollo guisado itself. We're going to bring this up to a boil, drop it to a simmer, cook that for about 15 minutes, or like 10 minutes, and then we're going to add in the potatoes and carrots, okay? And so, we gotta talk about the order of operations here. The reason why I'm adding the potatoes and the carrots at the end and not at the beginning is because if my potatoes and carrots end up overcooking, they're going to break down and make the whole thing super mushy. The potatoes and carrots are going to be the indicator of doneness. I'm okay with my bell peppers overcooking a little bit. I'm okay with my onions overcooking a little bit. These are chicken legs. You can't really overcook them because you want them to be really, really nice and tender. Okay? But the potatoes and carrots, if they fall apart, they're going to turn this whole thing into mashed potatoes, which is not what I want out of my pollo guisado. I want a little bit of the potato starch to dissolve and make the thing nice and thick, but I don't want anything past that. And then finally, after the potatoes and carrots, we'll add the olives and call it a day. Wow. Smells incredible. It looks pretty incredible. What does everybody think of my pollo guisado so far? I think it's pretty legit. I'm pretty proud of this thing. I am proud of all of the effort that we have put into this thus far and how much flavor we have ended up developing over the course of this process. So, everybody, let's do a little recap session. We're going to do a little recap session. We have accomplished a lot of the cooking for today's pollo guisado, for today's stewed chicken. I'm going to be slapping a lid on it as it goes because we just want it to come up to a boil and drop to a simmer. We don't really want to evaporate that liquid too much. I'm adjusting my hand. Let's do the recap. So, I had 4 chicken legs. The 4 chicken legs we ended up getting from when we did the last cooking stream because we broke down 2 whole chickens and we just air dried them in the fridge up until today. Okay, next. I had a bunch of really beautiful toasted spices, some whole cumin, some whole coriander seeds, toasted it, ground it up ourselves, mix it with some sazon, mix it with some paprika, mix it with some pimento as well. Okay, so we have this really delicious aromatic spice mixture. We made a little something called a sofrito. The sofrito is made up of blended up tomato, blended up green bell pepper, blended up onion, or in my case shallots, blended up garlic, blended up oregano, and blended up cilantro. Traditionally you'd use culantro, but I have cilantro on hand, so that's what I'm using. Okay, and then we chopped up some bell pepper, we chopped up some onion. We heated up a bunch of olive oil. And the reason we used olive oil is because it's a very tasty fat. If you're using something like canola oil or peanut oil, all of it goes into your soup at the end of the day. All of it goes into your pollo guisado. Okay? And what you end up with is a fat that doesn't taste too good. So when your fat is going to become a core part of the dish, you want to use a tasty fat. You can use olive oil, you can use animal fat. I had chicken fat and olive oil, so we heated both of those up. We got a bunch of really good color on the chicken. We browned it, we seared it really, really heavily. Okay? And then we took it out, we fried up the sofrito, we evaporated the liquid, fried it up, added some tomato paste, added the spices, added in some liquid, and added in some chicken bouillon. And then we added in the onions, we added in the bell peppers, we put back in the chicken legs, and now that's what's currently inside of the pot. We're going to heat it up, we're going to let that basically simmer along, okay? Ooh, look at the light. Look at the light on that bad boy. Okay, this is my beautiful pot of guisado so far. And this is still without the addition of the potatoes, the carrots, and the olives, which are all going to get added into the end. Does everybody understand me? Is everybody following along so far? And now, we're going to transition into the salad making stage of the operation for today. We're just slapping a lid on it so that we don't end up losing too much liquid. Look at the light on that. That reflection is kind of cool, isn't it? Okay, so why am I doing a salad? Well, I had a bunch of chickpeas in my fridge. I had a bunch of chickpeas left over. And so everything that I do at home is using up leftovers, okay? Everything that I do at home is about using up leftovers and using the most of what we have because I don't want things to go bad. Especially at home, I feel like there is a constant race to use up herbs before they end up going bad because herbs are typically the first thing to go in your fridge. And so, what's really nice about this chickpea salad is it lets me use up my excess herbs, it lets me use up my excess chickpeas and make a really lovely salad out of it. It's going to be a chickpea feta salad. Is this a traditional accompaniment for this? Absolutely not. But I'm cooking this at home. I love having a chickpea salad in the fridge. Okay? I really want to get you all into the habit of making bean salads, making chickpea salads. I love bean salads, I love chickpea salads. I love having a big batch of it and putting it into my fridge. Okay, and just like spooning it out. It's one of my favorite things. Okay, so let's begin. Is everybody ready to begin? I know you all said yes, chef. I just want to make sure that you have continuous enthusiasm for me. I like it when you make me feel special. So, I'm going to show you a little something. You may have seen me do this before in the past, but I'm going to do it again. I have here a block of feta. This is a block of feta that was in my refrigerator Who knows what happens? Can somebody tell me what will happen if I try to cut this now? What will happen if I try to cut this now on my cutting board? What would happen? Who knows? What will happen? It breaks. Not just that, Jack. It's going to smear. It's going to smear and turn into mush all over my cutting board. It's not going to crumble. It's going to smush and spread because it's not cold enough. So whenever I am ready to work with feta, here's what I do. I take it and I put it into my freezer maybe like 20 minutes beforehand, 30 minutes beforehand. That way, you really ensure that your feta is nice and firm. It's going to be the last thing that we end up cutting up. It's not like soft butter, Jack. It's like maybe a little bit firmer than that, but you get the idea. So I'm putting it into my freezer for 30 minutes or 20 minutes. So it's going to just be the last thing that we end up tackling for today. Okay. So today's salad is all about using up my leftovers. And so I'm going to show some of those off to you right now. I have some pickled onions that I wanted to use up. And I think pickled onions will be an excellent addition into a salad. Right? We have these pickled onions. You all remember how we made them on stream, correct? These really delicious, tasty pickled onions. I wanted an excuse to use them up. I also had a bunch of parsley that I wanted to use up. This salad is all about using what I have. And imagine how delicious this is going to be. Pickled onions, parsley, the chickpeas themselves, a little bit of feta. And again, I know these two things don't pair too well, but at the end of the day, it's about using what I have. Okay, and then I actually have my chickpeas themselves. They're just chilling out here. And so normally I tell you to save the chickpea cooking liquid. I'm actually going to strain it out because we are indeed making a salad. So we actually have no use for it at this moment in time. Oh, I love feta cheese so much. Also, while this is happening, while this is going, we're going to go ahead and inspect the beautiful pot of guisado that we have going. Huh, is it chipped? I don't think so. And now you can see it has begun to bubble away. Oh, look at that pot. That's what I'm talking about. We're going to do this with the lid off, just so I get to show it off. If we end up losing too much liquid, we'll just add in some water and it'll be fine. Look at that pot of guisado, my friends. Isn't that special? I think it's very special. Okay, so let's actually begin. Let's first make sure that we have a suitable bowl for the salad. Here's my number one rule with salads. Always have a bowl that is slightly too big. Have a bowl that is slightly too big because when you get in there and you try to mix things up, you want to make sure that it can accommodate the volume of your hands and then some. If your bowl of salad was perfectly sized, you're never going to be able to mix anything up. Okay, the first step is this. I have some additional red onion that I wanted to use for the salad today. Not just the pickled onion. Okay, because you can't get enough red onions in a salad, if you ask me. So my red onions, I'm going to grab it and I'm going to cut the head of it off, just like so. And we're going to lay it down on the side that we cut it. I don't need a crazy amount of red onion. I'm actually probably only going to use a quarter of this. So in it goes. Whew, that's a big boy. And one more time. Actually, we'll do the thicker side. I only need a quarter of this massive red onion. If you're in the EU, you're probably used to smaller red onions. This I'm going to go ahead and put into the fridge. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Let's think about the size of the pieces that we actually want going into this today, okay? Let's think about the size of the pieces for everything. For me personally, I am looking for, fairly small, fairly fine pieces of onion in a salad. When you bite into like a massive chunk of raw onion, I find it to be fairly unpleasant. So I happen to really enjoy my thin slices. What I am going to do though, is I'm going to actually cut the root of it off, and I'm going to match the way that I did the pickled onions, except basically go a little bit finer. I think I'm going to first just cut it in half like this, and then turn it around like this. And again, I'm going through fine, thin slices. Something like that, because that's the size of the pickled onions that we have. So I'm just trying to sort of match that texture so we don't have two complete different textures of onion. Okay? Thin. All the way through. Get it done. Okay, these are the thick chunks still. These are my thin slices. And we're gonna take my handy dandy little bench scraper. Always have this tool on hand, one of my favorite tools at home to play with. Excellent. Grab it and throw it into my bowl. And now these guys I'm gonna have to be a little bit more delicate with, because again, I just wanna ensure that all of my slices are as thin as they can be, within reason. I don't want massive chunks of raw red onion in this salad, okay? I wanna emphasize that. It's very, very unpleasant, it can be very harsh. So, there we go. And all of that is going to go in now. Okay, so there is a reason why I did my onions first. And that's because I wanted a little bit of time to get rid of the harshness out of the raw red onion. Okay, so a very nice thing to do is, if in your salad you're doing a little bit of salt, you're doing a little bit of vinegar, it's very nice to treat your red onions with that previously, so that we get rid of a lot of its intensity. I am not going to just be using any kind of vinegar. I'm going to be using the vinegar that we have left over from the pickled onions. If I can find a spoon, thank you. This was a little pickling solution that we made. And this I'm basically just going to cover the onions with, because guess what? I already have this. I may as well use some of it, okay? So I'm just gonna spoon this in. And then we're gonna hit it with some more salt after as well. And this isn't going to pickle it because it's not hot as it was before. But all this is going to do is give us a very nice base acidity for today's salad. So I'm using this in place of vinegar just because I already have it. It's a very nice byproduct. Use these kinds of byproducts whenever you have it available to you. And then we're also going to go in with a big heaping spoon of salt and make sure that it is fully seasoned. Again, the salt plus the acidity, it's going to leach out some of the very pungent raw onion flavors, okay? So big spoon of salt, big pinch of salt rather. And we're just gonna mix it up. And we might end up getting rid of some of this vinegar, depending on how we feel about it after. But there we go. With the acidity and with the salt, we're going to lose a lot of the pungency of the onion, okay? And then I'm going to give my chicken a little stir. See how that's going? It's looking very nice. I'm not moving the chicken as much as I am just scraping up the bottom of any potential things that could be burning. Excellent. Looking very good. All right. Is everybody following along so far for my salad? I love having onions in my salads, but I love doing this step. I think it's really, really essential. This little step that we're doing good here separately. Okay, sweet. That's going pretty well. Let's go ahead and get some of these pickled onions into the mix as well, because guess what? I have these. I may as well use them. Okay. My spoon keeps sliding around. So annoying. I have them. I want to use them up. I don't want to have these sitting in my fridge for too long or anything. Okay. So I felt like for this kind of a salad, this would be a very nice way to use them up. And I like to use chopsticks so that we don't get any additional brine into the mix that we don't really need. And we get to avoid all the peppercorns this way. We want to avoid the peppercorns. We want to avoid the garlic. You can see that the garlic has turned a nice shade of pink just by being with the rest of those other red onions. Get it all into the bowl. And they'll just become a part of the salad too. They'll all get to know each other. It's going to be great. It's going to be a very delicious salad. Okay. How are we looking here? This is a little bit tedious. It's a little bit annoying. But it's okay. We're getting it done. It looks like a snowman melted, and this is what, his nose? That's pretty good. It's pretty funny. In fact, we have these pickled chilies as well. I'm going to just use these too. I have these pickled chilies. Let's make something nice out of it, you know? Okay, those are all the major pieces of the onion. I don't care about whatever else is left in here. I'm going to dump this into the sink. This is now done its job. Everybody, please say thank you to Mr. Pickle. I think that's going to be his name. Please say thank you. He's done a good service for us. So I'm going to double glove for this because I'm going to be handling chilies and I don't want to touch my eyes after I do that. And so yeah, we just have the pickled chilies. Let's incorporate them. Let's not throw them away, right? Just because we have them, let's use them that way. Oh yeah, my guisado is going. My guisado is looking super tasty at the moment. I'm really excited for it. Okay, and let's chop them up. So as for the size that I'm looking for a fairly small slice on these chilies. That's mostly because I don't want to bite into just like a piece of salad with like a massive chunk of chili in it. I want the spice to evenly distribute through the garbanzo beans, through the chickpeas, through everything else, okay? So we're going fairly fine. Fairly fine, and it's all going to get incorporated inside. Too big of a piece of chili and you're gonna bite into it and then you're just not gonna have a good time. You don't have to be perfect with it, just again, keep it thin, keep it classy. All right, let's scrape up all of my pickled chilies. And everything that I'm doing here is I'm just using my natural byproducts. That is why doing quick pickles like this is so fun, because you get a lot of like very nicely like processed little veggies like these to work with. So these are my new red onions. These are some of the pickled chilies, and these are my pickled red onions all together. We might end up discarding some of this liquid because it might make the salad a little bit too wet for us today. So we're just mixing it around. You can smell the chilies coming out now. That's pretty spicy. Oh my God. That was a lot of chilies that I just added. Woof. Ah. That was a lot. But we still haven't added the majority of the solids to the salad yet, okay? The salad is basically just going to get thinned out with everything else that we put into it. So, next, let's drain off my chickpeas. I want to get rid of all of the liquid from this jar, from all this little canister, okay? We have no use for the chickpea liquid. We don't want to dilute the flavors of the salad. So I'm tossing out the stuff in my waste bowl. I'm just using my waste bowl as a means to drain this over just so you can see the process. And these are my chickpeas and all the cooking liquid. And what also be nice, it's spicy. Sorry, I am okay, I think. We're going to also run this over water because the chickpea cooking liquid, when it's like kind of cold, is just slimy. Also, Bentley, thank you so much for the sub. Tried your stir-fried pork recipe? Oh, I'm so glad that you liked it. I wanted to teach people like a lot of stir-frying technique with that one, and that was a dish of completely my own invention. Well, not completely. I had my inspiration from cumin lamb noodles and from mapo tofu, but I'm really glad that you liked it. Oh, that makes me so happy that you tried it. Thank you for the sub, Bentley. So, we're getting rid of the liquid, and then I'm actually just going to take this into the sink. And I'm going to run this over some more water just to get rid of any of that, again, like that slimy, unpleasant chickpea cooking liquid. Okay, we have no use for it. And we're just going to have it drain over my waste bowl. We don't want to agitate this. We don't want to move it around too much or anything. Because we'll just kind of end up breaking it apart if we do that. So we just want to let it just chill out, right? And chickpeas are nice and firm when they're cold. Make sure that if you're handling them for a salad, make sure that it's nice and cold. Okay, I'm going to put this away into my dishwasher. Also, am I a dog or cat person? Jack, I'm neither, because I'm scared of dogs and I'm allergic to cats. And also, I do think dogs in general are kind of gross. I do think that they're kind of gross. Even though I have a dog collar on and I bark a lot. Sorry. Okay, let's go ahead and look at our stew and my pollo guisado, because that's what guisado means. It means like stew or stewing. Is how many chickpeas or corn? Audio Murphy, how many is corn? How many is corn? Okay, keepers, enough. Enough of that. Enough, I said too much. I have said too much. So, my guisado. It's going, it's looking excellent at the moment. The flavors are fully developing, the chicken is cooking through, It's looking pretty delicious at the moment. Again, we're just scraping up the sides of the pot to make sure that any of the solids are just getting incorporated back inside. And the sofrito is doing exactly what we wanted it to. We kept it solid enough for us to be able to successfully fry it, but we kept it wet enough and finely ground enough that it would be able to dissolve into everything and make it really nice and flavorful. And so now the chicken, all the bones, those delicious chicken thighs, they're incorporating and, essentially releasing a lot of their own juices. They're making us this really intense broth. We're going to have so much flavor in this. You guys have no idea. We're going to be full of flavor today. If Guy Fieri was here, you know what he would say? We're going to Flavor Town. Okay? So, let's have a little taste. I think we do for a little taste, just to see how we're going. The chicken should be mostly cooked through at this point. Okay, especially like the liquid around it, because it's been bubbling away this whole time. I'm gonna give it a little taste. Just the liquid. All right, not the fat really, just the liquid. Yeah. You really can't go wrong with that, can you? That's pretty wonderful. Even as is, even without it cooking it down too much, I mean, that tastes really delicious. It's actually not that different from the chili that we did. Admittedly, like the flavors are fairly similar in terms of my spices as well, but the sazon is really coming through. The bouillon is really coming through. I mean, that is... Oh, that's good. You know what? I love it. I really love it. That is really special. Wow. I am not upset with that in the slightest, and that is at this stage. So I think what I'm going to do is, I'm going to cook it for about 6 more minutes. And then we're going to add the potatoes and the keratin. And that's going to cook them, and then we're going to finish it off at the end with olives. Does everybody understand me? Does everybody understand what we're doing here? Okay, let's get back here. So this is currently going. My onions, I'm going to just give a taste of my raw red onions right now and see how it's doing. Okay. Ooh, really spicy, but that pungency has died down exactly as expected. I'm now going to get rid of some of this vinegar because I don't need that much. Again, all of this was just a byproduct of the quick pickled onions. So we don't really need that much of this. Otherwise, it's just going to make the salad unpleasantly soggy. We can always add some in. But it'll be a lot more difficult to take out of an already done salad. I just want to get rid of this now. Okay. And now, I'm just going to dump in my chickpeas now that they've properly and thoroughly drained. And this is the start of a very special salad. The last step is going to be the addition of the cheese. The feta cheese, that is. Because again, we just want to give it enough time to properly freeze. I know it's not that many chickpeas. I've been kind of secretly snacking on them these past few days as well. I should have left some more for the salad. But it's okay. It's a very nice way of using up leftover chickpeas nonetheless. Okay. And I'm putting my strainer in my dishwasher. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, next. Let's get some parsley. Let's get some parsley in here. But yeah, we don't have to mix it around right now too much or anything. The only time we really have to mix it is when we do the seasonings. That is spicy. That is like sticking to my lips spicy. Oof, yeah, those bird's eyes, no joke. Okay, let's get a bunch of parsley in here. Again, one of my favorite ways to use up extra herbs that I have in my fridge. We're gonna get a mound of parsley in here. It's going to bring a lot of freshness into the whole dish. I don't need that much, I think. I think I'll save some of that for another dish at another time. But again, I want a lot of parsley. We're going to really mince it down. We're really going to process it up for this. I want a very fresh, herbaceous salad. That's what I'm really going for today. Okay? So, let's go ahead and get this all chopped up. First thing I'm going to do is let's stem it. Let's get rid of all of the big stems. You know why? Because it's going into a salad, it's not getting cooked. Chad, have you mostly been good? No, Tarina, Chad has been acting up a little bit. Chad was being kind of silly a little earlier. Can I please get a sorry, chef? Okay, so once again, I'm getting rid of the stems. You don't really have to. This is mostly for texture reasons because I don't really love the fibrousness of the stems. Thank you, keepers. Perfect. I don't love the fibers of the parsley stems themselves. I don't love the texture too much. So I'm just plucking them off. And I'll save some for another thing at a later date. Okay. And that's looking pretty good at the moment. Ah. My nose is still running from the chilies. I'm going to glove up because it is wet and I have eczema. So again, really nice way to use up like already like cooked beans if you have them just like laying around somewhere. Really nice way of like using up like those leftover pickled onions. Also, what am I doing? Thank you so much for the prime sub. It's very appreciated. Very sweet of you. Stir the Dutch oven, not the chat. No, I'm always stirring all kinds of pots here. By the way, does anybody have any cooking questions of any kind at the moment? Remember, I am here to help you learn how to cook. That's my goal. That's my duty. I want to be your cooking teacher. Okay, chef question. Would you make a fish and chips from scratch? No. I'm going to tell you why, Jack. I don't like frying at home. It's all about my home kitchen ecosystem. Okay? Here's why I don't like deep frying at home. Number one, you use a lot of volume of oil. In order to actually then repurpose that oil after and not fry it away each time. Oil can get very expensive. When you're using that much oil, it gets pretty expensive. You're not making a million batches of something at home. At home, you're cooking between 2 to 6 people, typically speaking, right? You can't really, replicate a restaurant environment where they have a big oil filter in those deep frying machines and it's constantly changing and cleaning that oil. After you're done deep frying, you have to strain off the oil in cheesecloth and do a whole bunch of other things to it, and you can only use it 3 other times. I think it's a huge pain in the ass. Okay. After you take that into consideration, deep fried foods don't actually hold too well. Everything that I try to teach you at home is a nice way to transform existing ingredients or something that reheats easily, because I think that's home cooking. And as delicious as things like fried chicken or like something like fish and chips may be, they don't reheat well at all. You'll never be able to get it as crispy as it once was. So I don't think personally deep frying is very good for a home setting outside of a novelty perspective, for me at least. It doesn't fit into my home ecosystem, okay? So we're just slicing this parsley. We're getting nice and delicate, but we want a fairly fine mince. I don't want massive chunks of parsley in this. Okay, so like we see that leaf, let's bunch it all up again. But yeah, Jack, that's why I really do not like deep frying anything at home. Yeah, we're slicing it up, we bunched it up, we're being nice and delicate with all of this parsley. Oop, and guess what? The timer is going off. So let's head back on over to my beautiful pot of Pollo Guisado. I'm gonna add a timer for, 15 minutes just to get a good idea of what's going on here. And we're gonna give the whole thing a little stir, and we're gonna scrape it all down. Okay? And now it is time to add in my carrots. In they go. Everybody say thank you, Mr. Carrot. He's done a good job for us, even though we're not taking him out or anything. He's just getting integrated inside. And I'm also going to be adding my lovely little potatoes. I'm just getting rid of all of the excess liquid that they were sitting in. And let's pile those potatoes right on in. These are my 4 gold potatoes. Gorgeous. That's what I'm talking about. And let's stir the whole thing in. And it's going to need some more salt because remember, these carrots, these potatoes, all of it is just bland. But I want to do this with an open lid because the idea now is we want to cook it and we want to evaporate some of that excess liquid. But you know what? Maybe we'll just keep it. We just want to make sure things are still submerged. We don't want to have like the potatoes be like raw on the top or anything. Okay? So I'm just stirring it up very thoroughly. And I'm nesting in all that chicken. Okay, these are the final stages of the Pollo Guisado. It is now time to cook all of these veggies. So the idea is you want to bring it to a boil, drop to a simmer, and cook it for about 15 minutes. Look at that pot. Look at this pot of stew. Look at the stewed chicken. Everybody, what do we not do here? What do we not do on my stream? We don't mess around. We do not mess around here. This is going to be an incredible stew. It's going to be so rich. It's going to be so warm and comforting and inviting and exactly what you want because it is miserable and cold in New York at the moment. This is what you wish you were eating right now. You wish this was you. Okay, so I'm gonna just put a lid on it right now just so it comes up to a boil a little bit quicker. And we're gonna drop it to simmer and cook it for about 15 minutes or so until the potatoes are nice and tender. Okay, let's head back to the cutting board. Again, I like finely minced parsley for salads because otherwise I find that it has like a very papery texture if you don't do that. Okay, and that should be plenty. Again, we're not going too crazy with it, but I just hate big, big leaves of parsley in my salads. Okay, it's just not my thing. And look at this. This is the start of a very special salad. Get a load of this guy, huh? Look at that. It's got the chickpeas. It's got the onions. Oh, gorgeous. The chilies. All right, next. I guess I can put this into the dishwasher for now. That's done a good job for us. Okay, I guess I accidentally lifted up my dishwasher with like all of the plates like in there and stuff, and it just like all slid in. So that was pretty funny. Yeah, I am fine. I just almost caused an accident. Ooh, ow, my finger is in pretty rough shape though, because from like before the stream I did it. Yeah, dishwasher is okay. Dishes are okay. And guess what? This is boiling away now. Gorgeous. And now let's go ahead and uncover it. We're going to stir it every so often just to make sure that all of the potatoes are evenly cooking. Okay? But look at that pot of pollo guisado. Look at that pollo guisado. That is some serious business. We're almost done. All we have to do now is just cook the potatoes and carrots, and then we're going to finish it at the end with some olives. Okay? Okay. So one thing I'm going to do really quickly is I'm going to chop up the cilantro with which I will be garnishing the pollo guisado for myself. This is the last remaining bit of cilantro that I have in the fridge. This is not going into the salad. This is just while my cutting board is still like out and about and I'm still able to use it. This is what's going to be used for. I don't have that much cilantro. A lot of it actually ended up going into the sofrito. Also, thank you so much to Lachi for the gifted sub. Thank you, thank you. It's very sweet of you. Wow. Welcome on in. How's your day been, Lachi? Okay. So, cilantro, and we're going to pluck it off. Pluck it off, pluck it off. Because again, you know how I feel about those stems. I don't like them. I do not like them. Okay, great. That's the majority of the leaves. And again, this is purely for garnishing my plate after. Okay. Yeah, so Audio Murphy, I don't really want to do mayonnaise for this because for my chickpea salads, I just really like olive oil and like keeping it very light. Although you can absolutely do mayonnaise. So this I'm just going to slice it through once. This is purely for garnishing later on. Okay, and that should be fine. Okay, it's just a few leaves I had to go through. Purely for garnishing. And going to add, of course, a delicious fresh cilantro taste. And I'm going to set this aside behind me. And now, let's talk about some of these olives. Let's talk about some of these bad boys. So, you had to tap in? Well, welcome on in. Lachi, is this your first time in my cooking stream? Let's talk about these olives. So, some of these olives, they're going to go into the pollo guisado. And some of these olives, they're going to go into the salad for today. So here's what I'm going to do. I have this little slotted spoon. Yes, I have this spoon here, which I really like for stuff like this. I have this slotted spoon because it's like sitting in like all of its brine and fat. Right? And this just lets me like take it and drip it off so that my cutting board never gets too wet. Okay, or you could just put this in a strainer if you would like. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so some of these are going to go into the pollo guisado and some of these are going to go into the salad. For my salad, I actually want my olives to be fairly finely chopped up so they get to be the same size as the chickpeas. So take a look. This is the chickpea and this is an olive. So the olives have to be roughly like quartered in order for it to occupy the same amount of space. Otherwise, we're just going to end up with massive, massive chunks of olive. The goal of a salad, I love chopped salads. I love having salads where everything is like very, very finely ground up. And everything is like sort of the same size as everything else, so you get like a nice big spoonful all together. I'm going to give this stew a little stir in the meantime because I want to make sure that above all else, the potatoes and carrots are evenly cooking and evenly submerged. So take some of the existing carrots and potatoes and tuck it on in, get the chicken, get some of that tucked in as well. It's looking excellent at the moment. I think in total this might need like about 12 more minutes for it to be where I want it. But otherwise, that pollo guisado looks pretty gosh darn incredible. Look at that thing. Okay, back to this. So again, the idea for me here is I want to make sure that some of my olives, I know that my light here looks a little bit weird, I apologize. The idea is I want some of my olives to go into the salad and I want those to be finely chopped. So I'm gonna get another glove because they're kind of slimy, right? It's an olive at the end of the day. And olives at the end of the day are either covered in fat or covered in brine or something, so, you know, just making sure I'm getting ahead of that. And let's chop them up. So, I think I'm just going to do it in half and then in a quarter, like this. And I'm going to go through them one by one and do this to all the olives. Beans and toast stream when? Yikes. I don't know if that'll happen. Well, actually, I think it'll be a lot easier if I just cut these up into thirds, like these. Yeah, I'm just going to slice these. I'm just going to slice them. Have you ever had fresh olives? No, Jack, you can't really have fresh olives because fresh olives are so bitter. It's a defense mechanism that the olives naturally have, so that people don't eat them. But we've, of course, devised a way to process them so that we can then eat them. A fresh raw olive is actually inedible. Now, there's like very like quick treated olives that don't like taste like super pickly or brined. So you get like a lot of that natural flavor and they're like processed in a fairly like chemical way. I know those exist, but I believe these are calamatas, yes. And so I want to emphasize, it's not traditional to use like calamatas in the pollo guisado. You would use like a pimento stuff like green olive. But I don't have access to those where I live. Those I do not have access to. So I'm using what I have. And these are already pitted. But whenever, even if you have a pitted olive, you do want to make sure. Oh, it's this time so that they're easier to cut up. Yes, I don't typically buy pitted ones because I love, near me, I have this really lovely Turkish soy lachi. Where I buy these dehydrated black olives. And they're super delicious, but they come pitted, and those are the ones I typically only use at home. Awesome. Okay, let's do a few more olives. And again, what's nice about slicing them like this also, and not just dropping them in, this is how you're completely sure that there is no pit. Even if they say they're pitted, you have to check. You do not want to bite into an olive with a pit in it. I think that should be plenty of olives for the salad. I ended up getting some olive oil on my face. That's on me. And let's go ahead and grab this bad boy. Oh, it's pronounced Locky? No, no, you're perfectly fine. Please correct me. Okay. And let's get all of this off. And into my bowl it goes. And so the rest of these olives, they're actually going to go inside of my pollo guisado because I love having olives in a pollo guisado. Except the only thing is I'm going to do is I'm going to cut them in half. This does two things. Number one, I don't want to bite into a whole olive when I'm working with the stew. I want to be able to get a little spoonful of everything. And olives are so intense and so like full of flavor that I never feel like I want whole chunks. The second thing is that this lets us do is check for pits as well. Even if they say that they're already pitted, the knife is just going to check for us so that our teeth don't have to do that after. Okay? We're just going through it one by one, and then we'll set it aside. And all of this will end up in my pollo guisado. Is everybody excited for the pollo guisado today? You better be. Maybe? Wow, I see, Jack. I see how it is. So yeah, just going through one by one. I'm being very thorough here. Again, you never know if one of them has a pit in it secretly. Okay, excellent. And now I'm going to go ahead and grab a little plate for these guys, just so that I can throw them in with ease later on. And yeah, once again, you would want to use a pimento stuffed olive if you can get your hands on one. I'm using these because these are just the best olives that I actually have around me and actively available to me. So these are going to go into the pollo guisado. I'm going to put them behind me. I'm done with that chapter of my life. I have no use for them anymore. Oh, the pollo guisado looks so good. Oh, that looks remarkable. That looks incredible, in fact. But it's got to keep cooking. We got to get those potatoes tender, and those potatoes are not yet tender. Okay? That has to just keep going. We got to be nice and patient. Okay. And now, remember the feta cheese. Don't forget about the feta cheese. The feta, we ended up putting into the freezer. We put it into the freezer so that we can get it nice and firm enough for us to be able to chop up with ease, okay? That's why we set it aside beforehand. Ooh, we put away the feta cheese so we can chop it up with ease. Ah, poetic, isn't it? Wow. And so, by the way, here's a little helpful tip that I have for you. Whenever you're chopping up cheese, especially feta cheese for the salad, you want to chop it up a little bit bigger than you would actually like it, because by the time you mix it through, it's actually going to end up breaking down in that process, okay? So let's get that feta cheese going. So we put it in the freezer so it wouldn't completely and utterly fall apart when it was time for us to chop it. As much as I love feta, when it gets even a little bit warm, the real challenge of it is just how creamy and falling apart it becomes. So we have all of my feta right here. I'm just going to hack off a couple of big slices for it. Let's do, actually, I want this much cheese in the salad for today. This much. I'm not measuring. I don't really care how much that is. All I know is, you know, in my own little terms, in my own little definitions, I want exactly that much. Well, Jack, we're not making a lot of salad. We're not making that much salad today. So the rest of it is going away. And now we want to chop this up. And again, you don't want pieces that are so fine that that's your final texture that you're looking for. You're just looking to first, and you can already see it's sticking to my knife a little bit. It would be sticking a lot more had we not put into the freezer. Ideally, I would have liked it in my freezer a little bit longer than what we currently did. Okay? But this will be okay. You can see it's already like breaking apart a little bit. It's crumbling. That's okay. It's just going to happen. And now we cut it up into pieces. Again, slightly bigger than you actually want in the salad. It's going to break apart in your salad. And then we'll chill it down and it's all going to be okay. That looks like the right amount of feta to me. Again, I'm just using my eyes and going with my preferences. Nothing I'm teaching you here is a recipe. I'm purely teaching you technique. I'm teaching you what to do when you want a soft cheese like feta inside of a salad. Okay, my hand is now covered positively in all of that cheese and oil. Also, thank you so much, Lockie, for the tier 1 sub for 3 months in advance. My timer went off, but I can already tell you with the texture of the potatoes that this is going to need at least another 10 minutes or so. Okay? At least another 10 minutes. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wipe off my station. I'm going to have you guys look at the guisado, the pollo guisado, and we'll go from there. Everybody understand? Does everybody feel me so far? I no longer need my cutting board for anything at all. And my knife, I can also clean it off. That's what I'm going to do. We clean as we go. That's how you maximize and optimize cooking at home. I'm just cleaning my knife off really quick, and then we'll get back into the swing of things. Perfect. We're in the final stretch, everybody. You gotta stay nice and patient. Really easy stream today. And let's wipe it off because, again, it's a carbon steel knife. What feta did I use? Oh, Jack, it's not a brand of feta. This is what we call in my local Eastern European store. This is a double cream German feta. So it's really, really creamy. It's really, really rich. Whenever I can, I try never to buy packaged deli meats. I never try to buy packaged cheeses. I try to go to my local Eastern European deli and store. And just because they have like a selection of like at least like 5 different kinds of like feta. In Russian, you would call it a brinza, I believe, for like that kind of cheese at least. And this is a German double cream feta, is what it's called. But as for the specific brand that makes it, I have no clue. You can probably look up a brand that would provide that for you. Okay, and I'm just gonna put away my bench scraper and put away my cutting board because it has done a good job for us, everybody. You know what to say. We're putting the cutting board away, so what do we say to it? What do we say? What do we say to the cutting board? Thank you to the cutting board. Thank you, Mr. Cutting Board. Thank you. That's what I'm looking for. Come on, guys. Get it together. Perfect. Took a little bit this time, but you guys all got there. Yeah, Taza, you gotta catch up, man. Okay. Ugh. And now let's look at my lovely guisado. Look at this thing. It's boiling away. She's bubbling away. She's simmering along. She's coming along. That is what I'm talking about. That is a delicious, delicious stew. But again, we don't want those potatoes to be raw. We don't want those potatoes and carrots to be crunchy. We got to keep it going until they get nice and soft and they start dissolving the littlest bit and they make the whole thing nice and creamy. That's why we cook the potatoes inside of the stew properly itself. It's going to provide us that viscosity that it desperately needs. And now let's give it a little taste. Let's give it a little taste. Let's see how the flavor is going. And remember, the more you reduce it, the more the flavors are actually going to concentrate and intensify. And it's all about what you actually want. Right? How light do you want this? How intense do you want this? How thick do you want it? Oh, that is full of flavor. That is so flavorful. You have no idea. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's comforting. That is comfort food. That is the epitome of comfort food to somebody like me. Okay, so who wants to look at my delicious chickpea salad? Let's take a look at this thing. And let's mix it up. We got feta in here. We got some olives in here. We have some chickpeas, some pickled onions, some raw red onions, some parsley. And now, remember, we cut up the feta intentionally in pieces that are slightly bigger than we wanted. Because by the time that we thoroughly mix this up, it's all going to get dissolved and broken down and naturally crumbled. We can even whack it a few times. It's going to get there. We want to aggressively stir this, aggressively mix this. Let's taste it for seasoning. Because remember, the feta is salty, the olives are salty, the pickled onions were salty. So what happens? So let's actually first break up the feta a little bit more. And I'm actually going to get some black pepper in here because I've realized I've neglected to put in some. A bunch of black pepper. And I think we have enough olive oil from the olives themselves because they were packed in olive oil. So I don't think we'll necessarily need too much more. But we'll give it a little taste. And we'll mash up some of that feta. We want some of it to dissolve, we want some of it to thicken, and we want some of it to basically crumble up into everything else, okay? That's why we cut it so big to begin with. What kind of pollo is that? These are just chicken legs. Just chicken legs that are happening in the pot over there. But it's just, it's a halal chicken that I got locally. It's not like a corn-fed chicken. I love corn-fed chickens. I love the color that they have. Oh, okay. Look at that. Now let's give this whole thing a taste. Delicious. Needs olive oil, needs salt. Yeah, even with the feta, even with the olives. Actually, no, in terms of olive oil, I think it's perfect. I think it just needs a big pinch of salt. Let's mix it up again, and you want to mix this thoroughly. You want to mix it aggressively. We're allowed to be so aggressive because we cut the feta so big. It will evenly distribute. Just have faith. Have faith. Have confidence. But are you asking like from which country more really challenge? This is mostly inspired by a Puerto Rican, pollo guisado. Oh, look at that salad. Beautiful. Seasoning's a lot better now. That's really tasty. And that feta is creamy. That feta is certified creamy. Okay, for me, this salad is done. It has everything it needs. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it in the fridge and just have it cool off until we're ready to eat. And we're in the final stages. Everybody, a little recap session. We're almost done. We're making pollo guisado and we're making a chickpea salad. The chickpea salad we just finished. It was chickpeas, it was feta cheese, this lovely like German double cream feta cheese that I had. It was parsley, it was olives, some pickled onions, some of the pickling liquid. Yeah, really, really delicious stuff. And this pollo guisado, we made it on sofrito. We made it on sofrito, okay? We blended up some tomatoes, we blended up a green bell pepper, some cilantro, some garlic, some shallots as well. And we made this really, really lovely base. We took some chicken legs, we fried it in oil, we fried it in chicken fat, we took it out, we fry up the sofrito, we fried up some home toasted and home ground spices. So we toasted cumin, toasted coriander, whole seeds, ground it up, mixed it with some sazon, mixed it with some paprika, mixed it with some pimento. We fried that up. We added in some water, we added in some chicken bouillon, we tucked in the legs, we added onions, we added in red bell peppers, okay? And then we let the whole thing cook, and then we added carrots, we added potatoes, and then we're going to finish it off with olives whenever it hits the viscosity that we want, and the potatoes and carrots are fully cooked through. So at the moment, they're still a little bit too tough. I want tender chunks of potatoes, and I want tender chunks of carrot. We're going to pull one out now, just to see where it's at. And just to see, maybe we have to like put a lid on it, maybe we have to give it a little bit more time. Let's see how we're feeling about the potato and carrot. One potato out, and let's get a little carrot. Well, you Mr. Carrot, hello. Hi, it's lovely to have you. And it's the chicken legs, and it's full of the spices. I mean, this is some real flavor. Okay, let's give the potato and carrot a little taste test, because that's what we were basically waiting on. They're a little firm to bite, already like to cut into. I can feel that. But they are completely tender too. Oh. Man. Okay. I'm gonna say about 5 minutes, and then we can even pull it. 5 minutes, but with the lid on. We're gonna do 5 with a lid, so as to accelerate the cooking process. And just to make sure that all of my vegetables are evenly cooked through. And then we're gonna garnish it with a little bit of lime. We're gonna garnish it with some cilantro. Oh, are you all ready for this? We got 5 more minutes, and we're gonna finish it with the olives too. Don't forget about that part. This is home cooking at its finest. That's what home cooking is about, my friends. You really can't get much better than that. We're using up leftover ingredients. We're using up things that we've had in our pantry to make something incredible and special. I just cut up a little lime wedge, not on a cutting board. I know, sue me. Bad form, but I didn't go against the table. Okay, and then we'll also scoop up a little portion of the salad. This was just the plate. Don't worry about that guy. And I'm gonna get the salad into a little bowl for this. Chef cooking with another streamer? Maybe. I just feel like in a home kitchen, it's not very possible because I hate cooking with anybody else next to me, Jack. Cooking with anybody else next to me, I mean like bumping elbows and stuff. Like, okay, here's the thing. So I'm gonna say something. I date a lot of women. Many of those guys, no? I date a lot of women. And they're always like, oh, Dara, this is my impression of them. Let me help in the kitchen. I always say no. Because not only do I enjoy doing everything physically myself, I also don't trust other jobs to anybody else because nobody will ever do as good of a job as you do when you want to do a good job. Okay? And then also, in terms of physical space in a kitchen, this is a home kitchen. This isn't a professional kitchen. I'm going to be bumping elbows, running into each other. I like taking care of somebody. I like being able to cook for somebody else. I don't as much love cooking alongside somebody else. Maybe trash can, but even then, I'm pretty specific with how I like to do the dishes. Hey Ash, lovely to have you. Okay, so this is just like a little bit of my salad. I'm going to keep that aside. And then I'm going to just set up my bowl for the Pollo Guisado when it's time to pull it out. Did I not set a timer? I swear I could have set a timer. All right, keepers, let's keep it kosher. Let's keep it kosher here. Again, this is my really simple chickpea salad. It was really delicious. Right, I'm just keeping it nice and light. We'll get into everything in just a moment. Currently, the Pollo Guisado is finishing up. And this gorgeous Dutch oven that we have here. Oof. Let's give it a little stir around. See how it's all doing. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. That's the stuff right there. The good stuff, even, as some would say. Many and everybody is saying this. The chicken is getting nice and tender. Perfect. Ooh. What do we think, chat? Do you think we're ready to pull it? You think we're ready to pull it and add the olives? It's a La Creuset Ash. Those are some chunky carrots. I love chunky carrots. I love chunky potatoes. What do you think? Is it olive time? Let's give it a taste. Let's give the broth a taste to see how concentrated the broth is. Yeah, potatoes and carrots. Oof. That is good. Wow. Okay, last step is going to be the addition of the olives. Let's get those bad boys inside. And we're just going to let them cook in for a second to get them to just soften up further and get some of the flavors inside of the rest of the stew. Not too many olives. I don't know how many I have added. I didn't really measure or count. I just added them in. That's the last step here. And again, not traditional to use these kinds of olives. But it's the ones that I have that are best available to me in my area. Here we go. What do you all think? Is it time to plate up some Pollo Guisado? I think it's time to plate up some Pollo Guisado. It's for saltiness and texture and the flavor of olives, not just saltiness. It's the whole experience. Okay, let's get a ladle. We're gonna get potatoes. We're gonna get a little bit of everything in here. Okay, potatoes, olives, peppers, some of that gorgeous broth, of course, and then we'll also finish off the top of it with one of my lovely chicken legs here. Excellent. Oh, that's what I'm talking about. That is a nice looking bowl of Pollo Guisado. Let me show it to you all now. Oh, ooh, ooh, that looks good. And then on top, you can't forget, we shut off the heat, right, on this thing? Okay, let me just tuck everything back in so nothing really dries out. And then on top, you gotta have some cilantro. You can't have this without any cilantro, okay? You gotta have the cilantro. And then, of course, a little bit of lime juice on top. Look at this. This is a money shot if I've ever seen one. That is a money shot. Everybody, we have done it. This is my Pollo Guisado. Is everybody ready for one last recap as I walk you through everything that we have completed? Is everybody excited for me to take the final, the bite? Look at this bowl of Pollo Guisado. That is really special, isn't it? So, my friends, this is a chicken stew. This is inspired by a Puerto Rican Pollo Guisado, but I've done it, of course, my way. First step, we made a own sofrito. This is going to be the base of everything. A green bell pepper, tomato, I had some shallots, not onion, some garlic, some spicy chilies, and some cilantro, all blended up, but not blended into a puree, but still nice and chunky. I toasted some spices, some cumin, some coriander, ground it up myself, added in some sazon, added in some paprika, and then I also added in some pimento. Okay, we heated up a bunch of oil, a bunch of beautiful olive oil, and some chicken fat. We seared 4 chicken legs in all of that chicken fat. We got so much color, we got so much browning on it, we developed so much flavor on these 4 chicken legs. Also, temporary cat, thank you for the prime sub. We pulled out the chicken legs. We pulled off the chicken legs, okay? And then we added in all of my sofrito. We fried the sofrito. We didn't just boil the sofrito. We cooked out all of the excess liquid, and then we fried it in all of the chicken fat and all of the olive oil. We added and fried the spices as well. That beautiful spice mixture that we made, all of it got fried in. We added some water, we added some chicken bouillon, and we put in the legs, and we let those simmer. After it simmered a little bit, we finished it off with potatoes and carrot, some olives, of course, and then some cilantro on top, as well as a lovely little squirt of lime juice. Additionally, we made for us a lovely little chickpea salad. I had some pickled onions, I had some chickpeas, some red onions as well. I had some chilies, I had some parsley, and some feta cheese. That was mostly to get rid of some leftovers that I had around. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a bite of the least interesting thing to me, which is the salad. And even that's gonna be fairly delicious. And it's lovely. I love chickpea salads. I love bean salads. I love having them in my fridge. I love scooping them. But now, that's great. You guys have seen me make a chickpea salad, but you haven't seen this gorgeous pollo guisado. This is comfort food. This is home food. We used up our existing leftovers and we transformed it into something incredible, something extraordinary. So look at this. The chicken, we can just use a spoon to be able to get a lovely little chunk of it. Just using a spoon. We're not using a fork. We're not using a knife. Just the edge of a spoon. The potatoes, they slightly dissolved. They made the whole thing so beautifully thick. They combined the fat with the broth. The flavor is ridiculous. The chicken is so tender. I mean, everybody, do you understand how much flavor is in this stew? Let's get a little bit of olive now with some of that broth. This has so much flavor. This has a ridiculous amount of flavor. And I showed you all how to do it. It's because we fried the sofrito. It's because we made our own toasted spices and we ground it up ourselves. We did not slack on the technique. We gave it a lot of love. Isn't that right? I want to hear your chef. Please and thank you. We gave it so much love every single step of the way. We did not neglect this beautiful pollo guisado. Okay, you can just use the edge of a spoon to get it to flake off that bone. And the carrots, come on. That's home food right there. This is the peak of home food. This is exactly what cooking at home should be like. This is the kind of a thing that you can reheat and it will always be delicious. It's full of vegetables, it's full of flavor, it's full of fat, it's full of protein. This is everything that you want in a meal. I think anybody would be impressed eating that. The salad is feeling neglected as it should. It's good, that salad is delicious. But I care about my pollo guisado right now because that's what I was craving. The salad, he was good. But the pollo guisado is special. And that's what matters. Okay, everybody. Final questions, final comments, final concerns. We're going to go ahead and find somebody to grade for today. Really quickly. Once again, if you haven't already done so, please check out the Patreon if you can. I really need... not need, that's a wrong word, but I'd really appreciate any kind of support that you could give if you're financially able to do so. I want to keep these streams free for everybody. I want to teach you all how to cook at home. So please, if you can, it'd be very lovely. Okay. That being said, you can type an exclamation mark Patreon or you can scroll down through that. Everybody, appreciate you all being here. Final questions, anything that you want to know. Next stream is going to be this Friday, 5 p.m. EST, as always. Although I might do it a little bit earlier. I might have something, so I'll keep you posted about that exactly. I'm currently going to go ahead and see just who's live on Twitch. Who is live? Let's go take a look. Da, 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 da. Let's go see if there's any cooking streamers that are live right now. Any ones that I would rate at least. Oh my god, we're at the top of the charts. Okay. Cooking soup season. Oh, Eat at Dad's is live. We'll go ahead and rate Eat at Dad's. It is indeed soup season. He's making a stew. I'm making a pollo guisado. Okay. Let's go ahead and raid Eat at Dad's. I'm gonna do this on my fancy little iPad here. But okay. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you, thank you. Next stream is going to be this Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Sierra, it was lovely to have you in that case. Thank you, thank you. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your Wednesday evenings. Till then, take care. Bye-bye, and be safe. I'm just happy that you were all here with me. And I hope you were all able to learn at least a little something through this process. So let's get out of here.